piping hot,
popping like popcorn.
It's all mine.
Can you hear the bells ding dong?
This is it, this is it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of Talk to Me About, the Guilty Gear podcast where we talk about your faves and why you love them. I'm your host, Dee. Hello, and I'm here again with my co-host, Jay. Hi, Jay.
Hello.
And today we are talking about the infamous, not Aria Hale, of Guilty Gear, Jack-O Valentine. The best Valentine, but you didn't hear that from me.
It's going to be really, really difficult to tackle the Ramlethal episode after this. Watch out.
She's not... What is that? That's R, you know? That's not happening for another
Yeah.
No
People will
one's remembering
forget.
that.
And that'll be good, too, because they'll also forget for the Valentine episode we'll definitely do.
I just forgot Valentine existed. I feel horrible, and she's got a really cool design as well.
Yeah.
But today
okay.
we are
It was a
here with...
prototype.
We're here with three silly lovers. And two returning people as well, so let me introduce them super quick. First up, it's Borch. Hi, Borch!
Hi! I do art, I like to draw Jack-O a lot, and I am a very mid-level Jack-O main in Xrd. She is my favorite fighting game character ever created to play, and I think she's so awesome and fun and unique, and it's like, she is the pure Xrd character. You couldn't get her in any other fighting game.
Mm-hmm. I think Jack-O in this game is the epitome of what Guilty Gear is, where it's like, we are going to make so many bullshit mechanics and throw so much bullshit on screen, and it's not my problem if you can't understand it. You're like...
I'm going to set up my weird-ass set play right here, and it's your fault if you walk into
Let the
it.
bullshit go!
Literally.
inspired gameplay.
And yeah, you must be a veteran at the podcast by now. This is like, I think, third time you've been on?
Yes.
But I'm always happy to have you on, so hi.
I'm always happy to be here.
And next up, the very lovely Pike,
Hello.
owner of no, what's it called? You know, I lost my train of thought. I was gonna say that Borch owns you, but then
That's correct. Yeah,
how's it going?
going great. Jack-O is also one of my favorite characters in Guilty Gear. Actually started out like drawing her for some of my first fan arts, and I feel like I kind of leaned back into it recently. I think she just has a really fun design to work with in both of like how she moves and her silly nature.
It was so interesting watching your art shift from constant Elfil, to all of a sudden being infected by the silly virus, and now it's all Jack-O all the time.
If you were around for the earlier days, I was also just drawing a lot of Jack-O before I felt.
There's just a period where he got extra brain rotted.
That's what love does.
It is true.
Yep.
And last but not least, Scruffy Turtles. Hello, how are you?
Doing good. Happy to be here and happy to talk about the silly of all time.
Mm-hmm. I really like your, I don't know how old they are right now, but your older, like, Jack-O comics where it's like, get out there and take my man, take my car keys, just get my husband.
Oh my god, yeah. Like, I love drawing Jack-O. You know, some of you might know that. And I also enjoy making silly comics, talking about the lore. The Guilty Gear lore is crazy. A lot of you know that too. But Jack-O just fits like a glove for all the insanity that exists in this series. So I'm very glad that she exists. I'm very glad that she is here to steal everyone's candy and steal everyone's attention.
I really like, it's a very, very tiny detail, but in the opening for Revelator, it's showing all these characters and it's like all diametric values. Like you've got vengeance or revenge, vengeance or like truth and ideals and all these diametrically, hope and freedom. And then you get to Jack-O right at the end and she takes the mask off and it's trick or treat and it's like, it's very much playing at what Guilty Gear is, where it's like all these characters are so inundated with grander things, and then you have Jack-O here, like, just fully with herself and how she feels. She's a silly little guy, but it also, wait, maybe there is a deeper trick involved there. Who knows?
More than anything, too, I know that Bork and Pike, we've had you both on a number of times, like we had just said, but I'm still just in awe that we were able to get all of you on for this because you're still like such really really cool people for me. And I know we were talking about just before we started recording how it's like, you know, not to build anybody up to be some kind of superhuman figure, but I just think you do a lot of great work. Keeping the fandom space like really cool and positive and fun to be in with your art. And I'm sure for the uninitiated, if you haven't seen anything by Pike, Bork, or Scruffy Turtles, you are doing yourself a disservice because it's really, really great. Absolutely check literally any of them out on Twitter and be delighted and overcome with joy because I don't know, I feel like every time I see a post from any of you on my Twitter timeline, I am just overcome with like, oh wow, you know what? Maybe existing in the Guilty Gear community is a good thing, actually. With
Shows you the
these
kind of
turbulent
cynic I am.
times.
You said all of you, and I thought you were about to start saying like, "Oh, all you Strive players who keep complaining about balance and shit."
I'm the last person to try to make a statement like that.
You see,
I'm hardly an anything
Strive
player.
discourse is actually a psyop where it's trying to make you ignore all the discourse that also existed in Xrd back then.
Yeah.
With like all the characters, all the balance that existed. Like Jack-O was OP at some point before, you know, Rev 2.
Really?
Same
Was
with,
she? But I think I vaguely remember Romola saying she was busted on launch. But how was she?
Well, admittedly, a lot of my experience was not that specific Jack-O, but just I've watched tournaments with how good that Jack-O was.
If
It
I
was
had
kinda
to guess, it's probably just she was allowed to get her win condition extremely early and set up houses and unimpeded.
Yeah, she was able to set up a lot easier. And I know that this condition of like the new character becoming or like being super good and then just kind of having to be balanced and nerfed multiple times is not just only a Jack-O thing because it also happened
Shout
to
out to my
Deadman,
boy Bedman.
because he was
Ramlethal
also
as
very
well.
OP, and Ramlethal.
Not Raven though. Raven's still good.
Yeah, this is the thing. Raven was god tier, and then they nerfed him to being very good.
It reminds me of the old post I used
He
to
was
see
the
where it was
highest
like,
of all of them.
where every time they would nerf Happy Chaos, and it'd be like it'd show someone on the tier list and be
Yeah.
like, "No, they're nerfing him," and they move him from S to S.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, he got
They almost,
nerfed
like,
to
put
top
somebody
one
in
again.
spot, but they
Yeah, I
just
know that
come back
meme. It's really
first.
funny.
But yeah, on to the important question here. Why Jack-O? Why is it that Jack-O is your special silly?
Jack-O was definitely one of the first characters I was introduced to when I was first picking up Guilty Gear. Back then, she was known for a certain pose trend.
Ay, Dios mío.
Oh yeah, it's just
Look, I think I can speak for a lot of people when it's like probably one of the first exposures to Guilty Gear.
it makes me feel old seeing people refer to it as a Strive pose when it's like, no, it was just as mimetic as it was in
No,
Xrd.
it was
like,
Xrd. Yep.
Yeah.
It was Exert first. It just came back with her DLC inclusion.
I was talking to
But-
Jay about this in the car right over here, but I think it's so crazy how expressive all of Jack-O's key poses are. Like, I don't think there's a single key pose she shares with any other move, and I think her, like, ability as a gymnast is super well reflected in, like, what she does. I like, what's it called? A contortionist. She bends around a lot in really fun ways.
Yeah.
It kind of gives that energy like she is this, like, biological creation, but she's also having the most fun she possibly could at any second.
Yeah, she kind of reminds me of, you know how like in early Rubber Hose 20s cartoons, they always draw like the person, like the character in the paper coming to life and interacting
Yeah.
with a cartoonist. That's what Asuka had to deal with when making her, you know.
Sorry, you said that and all I could think about is Jack-O getting hit by a piano and then she comes out and she's zigzagging.
And she
Yeah.
opens up her mouth and her teeth are replaced with piano keys.
Exactly.
We were talking about it.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. We were talking about it before the podcast started up too, but just the fact that she really has like those Roger Rabbit vibes. I think you were saying, Scruffy, where it's
Yeah,
just like
she absolutely
she-
has Roger Rabbit vibes, and she is the Roger Rabbit to Soul's Jessica Rabbit with his
Yeah.
snatched waist and everything.
So Jessica Rabbit.
I really like the idea
Yeah,
that,
fun thing to do.
like, Soul is the eye candy in this situation. And in
He
most
is.
situations, like, that is her hubby, not the other way around.
I mean, like, literally, the line that Jessica Rabbit says, like, someone would ask him, why do you even Makes me laugh.
Simple as something a Sol Badguy desperately needs.
A little bit of humor in his life.
But Borch, what was it for you?
So when I first got into Guilty Gear, I think like it was back in 2019 or 2020. It was a bunch of my friends like found Xrd. I think they were showing it off at a convention, like just in the gameplay section, the arcade, and they're like, "Oh, this game looks so cool. Let's try it out." And then Jack-O was one of the first characters that stood out to me as like being a really cool character design that I think like would be really fun to play. But I always understood her as being like super complex, so I went more towards like Dizzy, who is also very complicated.
Yeah.
And Venom was also very complicated. But when I actually
This is
got
Guilty
more
Gear.
to,
If you
like-
want something
yeah.
not complicated, you have to pick like Kai or Sin.
Yeah, well, I played Kai for a little bit too.
Those are hard times.
Yeah, hard times. But when I started taking the game a little bit more seriously, where I wanted to like actually get tournament ready, or at least to a competitive like level, Jack-O is the most fun. Like I looked more into her gameplay, and it just stood out to me as something so cool and so interesting that again, like you can't get this in any other fighting game. It's so unique, and there's no other like RTS inspired characters as far as I know.
Yeah, for those who are
Especially-
unaware, especially since I just did the last episode on Izuna, which is kind of funny, but Jack-O is directly based off the gameplay style of Guilty Gear 2 Overture, which is the official next mainline or a mainline series entry after Guilty Gear XX, and follows RTS action gameplay because Daisuke really liked Defense of the Ancients and he thought this would take off completely. Came out before League of Legends, so he wasn't far off the money, but it's this Xbox 360 gross-ass looking title, where you run around with minions and you hit each other's like structural ghost things, which are Nexus towers, kind of. And Jack-O's whole gameplay gimmick in Exert is summoning the minions. And it's an interesting approach to it. I like that she has like her organ commands too, kind of like how you do in Overture, where you go to your master ghost and you can summon items and things like that. It's a cute little way to translate it. And goddamn, is she absolutely complicated. I think you were telling me earlier, Borch, that Jack-O is the third least played character in the game because of it.
She was one of the rarest, despite her like being a pretty popular character fandom side. I don't know the exact like ratios, but I know Bedman, Jack-O, and Answer tend to be like the least common.
You got Answer sitting outside in the rain, and his hair is drooping down, and he's sobbing.
He's busy taking
when
the
he
calls.
gets
He
added,
can't be too somber right now when he's handling all the business
Yeah,
calls
when
he's
he
doing.
when he gets into Strive, I think he'll have his day.
yeah. For all the true believers out there, I'm sure next Fighter Pass.
Yeah,
but
I think I've chanced like some accounts who are really big into Answer, so that makes me happy that a lot of people who might have gotten into Strive are looking at past characters and getting into them too. So it's not just the Strive characters. People do care to look back.
Yeah.
Let's jump back a little bit, Borch. It's really funny that you said that you were introduced to Exert and Jack-O from a convention hall arcade section, because I was similarly introduced to Tekken 7 from an arcade section at I think what was it? Not PAX. It was some anime convention local to us. And Jay and I walked up to this Tekken 7 cabin. I immediately picked Lily, and I think I immediately picked Jack-O when I was playing Exert at Jay's house for the first time, and I'm wondering now, like, oh, do I really like characters with really long hair, and that's the main thing, and, like, they're covered in white? Like, what? And, like, they're acrobatics as well? Like, what's going on here?
I think it's just the silly organ deep within your brain resonating with silly characters in other games.
Is Lily that? I mean, I guess she is a bit silly.
I think she is a little bit silly. I think any person who's like constant intro is calling after her cat named Salt, and just constantly flirting with her girlfriend in every one of her appearances. She got.
So, Scruffy, I wanted to ask you, you are a huge Jack-O person. How did it all start with you? And you were into, like, from Exert days as well, so you're kind of an OG.
I wouldn't say OG because I mean there's a lot of XX people who still talk here now and there, and
They can talk
they're
their
still,
shit, we're
they're
not
still
listening.
around. They're still around, but yeah, I mean I'm not OG. I was around since 2018. And I've always like been interested in it because my fighting game knowledge actually started a while back with Skullgirls of all things. Because me and my buddy, like, she was the one who actually like showed, hey, like check out this really cool 2D fighter, and that spawned my like interest. I always knew about like fighters from the side, but I never really got a chance to pick them up myself. But after that, I didn't really have anything else that really held my interest. I tried a bit of Street Fighter and Tekken, and you know, they were fun, but I didn't really hook myself with the characters quite as much. But when I finally got to Guilty Gear and I started learning more about it, that's when, like, you know, things started hitting off. And just as a prior thing before Jack-O, I think I actually drew like a con commission when I boothed once of Axel Lowe before I even knew what Guilty Gear was. And it was like really funny because like they're like, yeah, can you draw Axel in this position? Like one of it, I think it was one of his normals. And I'm like, sure. Man, what the hell are these guys' shorts?
I was about to ask if you did XX or if you did Exert, but no, you just have to draw his little boy shorts.
It was Xart and his silly little jorts. And I'm like, this is certainly a design. And then it was so cool later on when I discovered Guilty Gear again, you know, seeing him, but more importantly, seeing Jack-O there, because yeah, her design was very appealing, and I thought, wow, this is super cool. Let's look up more about her. Then, you know, I looked up the insta-kill videos on YouTube, looked up a bunch of the animations, the gameplay, and you know, I was super hooked. I downloaded it, and I got a bunch of my buddies to play it with me, you know, online. And this is before like any rollback or anything, unfortunately. So we were just happy to play it online, give it a shot. We enjoyed the anime graphics, and of course,
It's gotta feel so good now that you got rollback.
Yeah, I enjoyed and jived with like Jack-O's Xrd side for quite a bit. I was never good, but you know, I enjoyed it because, like, admittedly, she does feel easier to pilot than Xrd, so it was always very comfy. Like right now, I'm even just feeling comfortable playing with her again compared to how her Strive iteration. But yeah, apart from gameplay, however, the narrative really it's like nails deep into my soul. And
for years, people were expecting, like, Aria Hale is such a major part of Guilty Gear, and her death was something that affected Sol Badguy. And he has been fighting clones of his wife for so long. So to finally have what is the closest approximation to her in the game, someone that actually remembers him and has feelings about him, it's a huge moment. Like this, like all the wife dead, wife back jokes. This was her. She's back.
Yeah, before all the jokes, I will admit I wrote so much about these two. I actually have like a giant 70-page Imgur thing, like summarizing a lot of the stuff in Xrd. I don't know if like I ever like.
I think I vaguely remember reading something off of your Tumblr. I think it was you talking about like Icarus and stuff, right? And how that relates to Sol.
Yeah, like how a lot of the character songs, even the ones that don't pertain to a particular character, can really work for certain ones. Like for me, Icarus feels very Aria Hale coded because she wants to be taken somewhere that she can't go because, you know, limited time. She's not going to live very long. But she does want to live, but then she also wants to live on her own terms. But, you know, apart from Aria, just it was such a journey going through Guilty Gear as a whole and learning about its story. And of course, by the time I got to Jack-O, it was great build-up. When I was getting into it, we didn't have the Wooly video yet. We didn't have a lot of like things yet for like summarizing the lore. So I just had to
know
look
that
up...
story, you have to go through those arcade modes yourself and learn a character that you have no idea how to play.
Yeah, exactly. So I went through all the arcade modes in Xrd to piece together the story and to watch it, you know, in the game itself.
Oh yeah, before the Wooly videos, wasn't there like a really long, like 5-hour video with a guy on a whiteboard explaining the lore?
Yes, that was the guy that I
remember seeing that.
I kind of like the college vibe of that one.
It was very nice. It even had the annoying guy who kept interrupting the professor.
Yeah. Very.
I remember that in very particular. But yeah, sorry, I don't want to take up too much time.
No,
but yeah, the narrative really hooked me up.
take up as much time as you want. Like, this is fun.
Yeah,
I wanted to ask, did you end up going through Exert's story at all, or is it still just a purely I love her kind of angle that you love Jack-O?
Still haven't watched the story.
We were trying to
I
make
just
time
played
for
the game.
it.
I mean, I think that's awesome, just because like that reminds me of like older arcade days. You know, you just hook into a character because like you really enjoyed piloting them, you like their aesthetic, and you know it just has those vibes of I came into this game one day, I saw this, and I wanted to main her.
Yeah,
At
Because
the
not
end of the
everyone
day,
knows
fighting
lead
games
lore. Who
are
wants to know
like
lead lore?
at the end of the
They
day,
just want
outside of
characters.
being cool competitive and generative experiences, fighting games are also art projects where you get to see very cool different character designs interact with each other and imagine what you think the characters would be like on your own terms. And I think like being able to translate what a character is just from these brief like intros and the like key poses and gameplay itself is still a lot. Like the fact that Borch understands Jack-O pretty well just from gameplay, I think says a lot.
I know
Yeah.
like the general beats of her story. I don't know too much about the details, but I think it's really like to Guilty Gear's like mastery of character animation and character design. Everything has so much personality. You don't even need the story to like a character for who they are. It's just they're so like electric and magnifying, and just even in their gameplay.
They hook you in. It's true.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like the
Yeah, I mean,
cumulative
Maximilian
effect.
dude is a really big Viken fan, but he doesn't know any Guilty Gear lore because Viken's cool, and Viken has like such a great aesthetic to her.
He also killed Guilty Gear, or got. Shout out Hotashi.
But no, yeah, not to invoke more topical discussion, but I really do think that kind of coinciding with those points, that it just goes to show that Guilty Gear perhaps does deserve that spot among the arbitrarily
Jay, don't
ordained fighting game
no.
large
Oh, no.
trio.
Don't! Oh, God
Yeah,
damn it.
I narrowly scraped by. Just because the way that it's quietly permeated the Gestalt
Oh no.
things like the cultural impact of its music, of its characters, of really just every aspect of it. I think because Guilty Gear is a franchise that, appropriately is so unabashedly kind of in love with itself and really believes in what it wants to do and the characters that it's created, it just like has a way of clinging to people whether they realize it or not. And so I think it's very common that we have stories like Scruffy's or like Bork's where it's like, I don't know the most about this immediately, but just like the vibe spoke to me because this is a game that has like a sense of like self-assuredness almost, right? Where it's like, I'm not afraid to depict the character that I want to depict and do it in such a way that every aspect is communicating something about them that you can really feel. And not to say that other fighting games don't do that, obviously, because like, you get that same vibe maybe if you look at Zangief from Street Fighter and you can register him as like this big, fun, cool, tough guy who wants to get all up in your face. But I think Guilty Gear, because it has the story, even if you don't know it, because there's that level of implied depth and roundness to all these characters, like you get so much more of a deeper attachment because you can almost feel that pulling to you from underneath the surface, right? Where it's like, Jack-O is this fun Fleischer era animated cartoon character, but then there's also this, especially in Exerd, this like other weird juxtaposed side to her where she is constantly spouting off like weird science jargon.
Yeah, I
and
wanted
it's
to
like,
talk about that aspect that Jack-O has the split between the adult and child, or as she calls it, the intellect and the reason. Or like also the face and the mask. It kind of, like very much ego and id kind of stuff.
And
I
it's like
really-
what other fighting game would really have the confidence to portray such a central character in a way like that? Every one of them seems, for better or for worse, like pretty one note, right? Like I was just saying
Yeah.
with your Zangiefs.
Like, I'm thinking about other characters with masks that have a duality aspect to them, and what comes to mind immediately is Vega from Street Fighter 2, and his personality is being an assassin guy that I guess saw Chun-Li naked once, and then compare that to Jack-O.
And then got his shit rocked by her.
I want to add something to Jester actually, and you were talking about Zangief and a bunch of other characters from Fighters, and just how Guilty Gear is able to separate its characters from a lot of the ones that have been centralized in media for so long. And I think part of that and why people connect to them is that these feels like Daisuke's OCs. At the end of the day.
Yeah.
And like when you look at a lot of older games too, those characters are very big. They're centralized, right? Everyone knows Chun-Li, everyone knows Ryu, everyone knows Kazuya, but there's something more personal about the characters that Daisuke created because he has his hands deep into the production of this game, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, it's like, oh, Sol Badguy, he voiced Sol Badguy for like a couple of games before he got a professional VA for him.
Mm-hmm.
He handled a lot of the story stuff. He cares about the narrative a lot. He cares about the production and how the characters stand out in gameplay and how they're animated. And I think by just showcasing that, I feel like if I were to just look at Daisuke's sketchbook, there's just so much stuff regarding these characters that we like, especially Jack-O, that really just shows that these characters feel like they're more living and breathing compared to other fighting games because it has just that one guy at the helm showcasing these characters and understanding that there's so much more that you can do with them beyond just the tropes that they initially like are seen for.
Yeah,
That's a really
no,
stupid question to ask 25 minutes into a podcast, but how do I set the house?
Down, P, down.
Thank you!
Hey,
Okay,
down,
I was
down,
doing
F.
quarter circles.
Yeah, I know.
No, we're not in Strive anymore.
She doesn't summon houses in Strive.
No, I know, but just the lack of quarter circles.
Oh, you know what? Actually, summons minions in Strive like that.
I mean,
what, you're right.
there was a housing crisis from 2020 onwards. So I can't afford the houses for her little goobers anymore.
The Valentine housing crisis of 2016.
But no, yeah, I absolutely get that vibe, and I think Jack-O is one of those characters where you feel it manifest the most, despite how, like, initial impressions might just say, like, oh, she's just a fun character, but, like, in addition to being fun, not to say that that's, like, reductive of her character at all, she's also, like, just so much. She has so much going on, and I'm really so excited to start breaking into it, but, like, yeah, the genuine passion that underlies every character in Guilty Gear is so infectious. Like, you can really feel it communicated to you from even across the room when you see the game displayed somewhere, because unlike a lot of these other characters, they're not like the product of multiple circles of editors and like executives, and not to say that every single other fighting game character is like that. In Guilty Gear is uniquely from the heart, but you can really,
I don't think
tell.
I don't think Harada is walking out and saying, "Oh, Jin should look exactly like this," and Jin's theme should sound like that. Like, I don't think that's happening.
There's so much of Daisuke's heart personally in all these characters, and I think was there an interview from him where he was talking specifically about like the thing that compels him to make more games isn't that he's like looking to innovate exactly, it's just that like he still has all these stories to tell about his characters that he really likes and he wants to share them with you, and I think that that's just really awesome. It's something that we talk about, I feel like, on a lot of podcasts, but it's like it warrants being brought up every single time because these characters are super special, and it's because this guy who made them is really, really interested in them, and you should be interested in them too because you're really, really special.
I actually have a question I want to ask everyone about Jack-O. It's like, I know like we're kind of like going back and forth, but just a question so that way we can all like chip in.
Yeah.
What's something physically you like about Jack-O's design?
That's
Because
a
at
good
least for
question. I was
me-
about to go into something like that too. Yeah, you go first.
For me, I love her bell bottoms. There's
Her
something
bell
they're
bottoms are
super
so
cute.
Very
It's
jazzy.
something so unique that you would see in like clothing design for a character. It's just, it gives her this like disco / cowboy vibe that I really dig.
It's always given the
And-
vibe to me like she's like a girl next door, like kind of 80s mom out of place kind of thing, where she's like, oh, I can hang out
Yeah.
with all of you goobers, I'm cool too.
Yeah, it gives those vibes, and just it's something I really enjoy. Just
Their motif going on with the mask and jumpsuit and everything too, and it's reflected in a lot of her moves. Say her command grab and exert, it's just like a big pile driver, and I think it's neat because it really feels like Jack-O's just a mishmash of so many different design themes, and just the halo slapped on top of it.
Yeah, we were literally talking about this in the car a few days ago. A lot of other characters, I guess it's hit or miss. Some of them have very like obvious design motifs, like Elfelt, Guns N' Roses, November Rain wedding motif. But Jack-O is like, she's dressed like Elvis, but also a disco dancer, and she has a big halo and a ball and chain. Like, she's really something unique. Like,
You said it like that, and I think it just occurred to me that Jack-O's halo is probably meant to be kind of like a disco ball, and that's also probably what her little familiar Dopros is kind of meant to be too. Like, she's her own one-woman art like party.
Yeah, I could see that, but there's just so much.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
What strikes me immediately about Jack-O, and I'm realizing that maybe it's not the most correct thing in the world, but I think, to me it struck me is that she's wearing a prisoner's outfit. Like, it's some kind of white jumpsuit, and she's got the ball and chain on the end, too. But that wasn't good enough for her, and she's kind of breaking out of that prisoner role, so she's turned that into bell bottoms and this, like, kind of sexy, like, jacket top kind of thing going on too, and she's made it fully her own, and it's like, she might feel like a prisoner, but she's still making the most of the life that she has, and that kind of reflects to me, like, what the Jack-O Aria split is there.
It actually
kind
reminds me of the
impression
line, yeah, from her insta-kill. Since you mentioned the prisoner aspect, let me out.
mhm.
Oh yeah, the whole I
Kinda
want out thing too,
I
where
want
the,
out.
want
the
out,
Halloween.
yeah. There's something about, like, you're onto something there. You're cooking with it. Like, I think it works with the just insta-kill line also kind of fits this a bit.
Building off of the Halloween connection too, the first thing that always jumped out to me, and it's very like superficial and obvious, I guess, comparatively, but I always just really liked Jack-O's goofy jack-o'-lantern mask. It was something that I think really made her stick out from the rest of the cast back when I was like just scrolling along the cast of Exerd. And just being the Nightmare Before Christmas little emo goth boy that I was, it just resonated with me a lot. That again, this is a game where we can have characters like Blair, like Bedman, like Pot, like Sol, and Jack-O, like all in the same game, and really spoke to Guilty Gear's like kind of horror core roots, but in more of like a fun, cute sort of way. And I'm glad that it found a way to maintain that aspect of its soul and then represent it in like kind of a different perspective with Jack-O, because it's really cute. It's awesome. I always love any character that has like the I'm gonna pretend it's Halloween all the time, like trick or treat type thing. I don't know why. It's just it gets me smiling.
It reminds me of how people like really want a Strive mod where you can it exists already, but like, oh, I just want to be able to take Jack-O's mask off in general. And I do agree, it's nice because she's pretty. I'm not going to deny that, but the mask is something that would sell you to her. And I think when most of us saw this character, we saw that version first, not like her key art, but just her with the cool mask.
I
And
love
that
the
to me
mask so
draws
much,
you in.
and this
That
is gonna
draws you in.
feel very petty coming from me, but as someone that likes League of Legends quite a bit, but I don't talk about it that much or play it. I mean, I still play it. They have an internal mandate that no woman can have a mask that covers her mouth or anything like that, because the character has to always look pretty, And seeing Jack-O have this full face mask and she's not afraid to look like comically scary or goofy or just very much herself, it sells me on her so much. She's so cool. I like her mask.
Oh yeah, big agree. I know I mentioned the bell bottoms, but yeah, the mask is definitely like one of the key features for her.
I was gonna say too, whether it's Exert or Strive, I think her color coding is so strong. Something that strikes me, it's really, really small, but I love the red on the bottom of her shoes. It's especially noticeable, like, in her little arcade mode when she's, like, popping, and she's just being born for the first time, and she, like, steps down, and you can immediately, like, see the, like, flash
the
in her
clack.
shoes. Yeah!
So, like, that satisfying clack as she went on the ground. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's so good.
Damn, they're so good at animating.
I also just really like the visual coherence between her design and color palette when compared to Sol and Asuka, like how you can tell that these are three characters who are supposed to be like deeply connected to each other. They all
Yeah,
share
that's a
the
really
same-
good point.
Yeah, the blacks,
They're sharing the whites and the reds
whites.
and the blacks.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was like really, really sick and probably very intentional from Daisuke's end, because I know this is the kind of stuff that he like is always racking his brain about and what it's meant to suggest for characters. But yeah, no, it's really cool too, just like how all these design aspects we brought up, like despite sounding very disparate, are just so perfect together in a way that feels like they're like a million times more than the sum of their parts, because like Daisuke just somehow created this really compelling character who is a trick-or-treating woman who is also a prisoner and also a disco queen and harbors this deep existential sadness behind her eyes. That's like, it's
Oh yeah,
I
Jay,
don't
of
know.
course. She wants to grab lots of snacks, wear new shoes. Come on.
Oh,
Girl just wants to live a little.
I can't please her.
I'm
That
sure you
one
guys
hurt
have
my
seen
soul.
the jokes where it's like, guys, I hope Soul's name isn't Perfection.
Is this an opportunity for us to start talking about Perfection Can't Please Me and our impressions of
Or
that?
should we save that for later? Like,
yeah,
if
let's
it's
save
now,
that for later. I just wanted to bring that up.
that's
super
gonna be
quick.
that's for me. That's a very long, long talk.
Yeah.
Full Saw theme, like dun dun dun.
Yeah,
I
typically,
wanna, oh yeah, Jay.
just interjecting really quick, typically I always feel like when there's a character that's been in both Exert and Strive, I like to talk about like what your thoughts are on their, physical design changing between the two games. But for Jack-O, there's not really much
Jay, he
to
nailed
talk
it in
about.
one. This is not.
Yeah,
a
he was
flawed
like, I don't
character
need to go
design."
back to this one. We got it.
They changed the cross color from red to green. How dare they?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I'm
God,
stuck in the
very
blender
different
now.
color.
I do wanna point out, it feels like for Exert Jack-O specifically, her color choices are kind of conscious, and that like the whites on her bodysuit can how do I say it?
Her
You can
hair pops it out.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it really helps with her general silhouette, on top of like making sure the body doesn't like blend into the hair.
I think
Yeah,
the-
I was gonna say, like, I do think Xrd does that better because, like you said, the red is underneath, so it makes the jumpsuit pop more.
Yeah,
It
I
also
like
adds
Exert's
to-
color scheme way more than Strive's, and I think part of it is intentional that it's like Strive Jack-O has a bit more of a mismatch with the color scheme because she's she sees herself as incomplete in Strive, and that she's not fully like in love with herself as she is in Exert because she's having
Kinda
that
going through
moment
it.
of awkwardness. So I can forgive it a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I still love Strive's design, but like Pike pointed out, there's something about how they handled the colors with her initial design that was very conscious
Mm-hmm.
of what they were doing.
I really
No,
like too. I like the Ankh she. I'm not even sure if I'm saying that correctly. That
Yeah,
she
that's
wears in
totally-
both games because, like, oh, that's a symbol of like eternal life, and she is like a living ghost in a couple ways. And also, she's
Oh,
just
nice.
extremely lively.
Mm-hmm.
hmm Oh, also, Borch was gonna say something.
I was just saying, like, despite there not being that many changes from XR to Strive, I do feel like the hair is a pretty significant one. Just for, like, the reasons that Pike brought up for silhouette reasons. Also, I don't know, it's just the red being an accent instead of the main color, it has a very different vibe. In
Yeah.
XR, she feels very like angelic, and it's also in like ethereal almost with how much her hair glows in her base
Mhm.
colors, and like how it's floating just like in space, and she constantly has like this weird handstands, and her hair looks like it's underwater, and then the red pops out from under it and really like highlights it. It's an
Look at
accent.
her go!
Look at
Yeah.
her go.
You're almost
And
making
then,
me wonder if in Strive they should have gone for a darker bodysuit then, like a dark purple or maybe a black or something. But then I don't know if that like compares
That's why I'm such a
too
big
much
fan of
to...
Color 7.
Mhm. I think they made
And,
statues of Color 7 or whatever the
I do
the
think
pink and
her-
black one is.
Her Strive design is very beautiful. I do like the red a lot. It has a different vibe. It's like it almost feels a bit more fun that way.
Yeah.
With red being like a pretty energetic and loud color, and it being so, it has its own like representation. But I like both a lot. But I am a little partial to XR just when drawing it too. I have a lot of fun when drawing the XR design because of the hair.
Look,
Mhm.
Borch, I'm gonna say right now, if you say anything about color theory, I'll believe it. Your art, like, because like, no, I'm just being serious. Because like, your art's actually like perfectly angelic in the way you describe Jack-O. It's very good, and you know, I kind of see that considering how the white is so prevalent in her XR design, and the red feels like she just got grounded a little bit, but then she still has that. She's not as far away, I guess, because you know when something's angelic, it feels like it's hard to grasp who they are. They're like a horror beyond comprehension in some ways.
Mhm.
That probably
That's kinda
all
how
relates to the
Jack-O fits.
Halo change too, because on Exert, like, maybe she is meant to be this like perfect angelic form, like perfectly symmetrical, perfectly like able-bodied, and like that's why she has the perfect Halo. Like, oh, she's the ideal of what an Aria could be. And then in Strive, that ideal has cracked a lot because she's not Aria, she is Jack-O herself. So her colors become a little more off. She's got the red and white imbalance in her silhouette. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at how you guys are hopping over each other. That's adorable.
Bro.
And that's why she also has the cracked halo as well.
I think it's really good storytelling, and I think that's what's awesome about it. Even though I have a preference to how Xrd looks physically, I like Strive a lot because of all those reasons, you know?
Strive sells its cinematography very well and how it frames things and how like it manages to blend characters into the environment very well, because they could still be bright and saturated, but whenever like you're somewhere snowy, of course they're a lot more desaturated. The art direction's a lot more based off of movies in this versus anime, in my opinion.
Yeah, I get a
Strive.
huge American cinema vibe from Strive.
Yeah.
And before we move on from talking about Jack-O's design, I think it's very important if we talk about a critical aspect of her, one that cannot be ignored, one that is very, like, fundamental to Jack-O as a character, for me personally and for many out there, and it's that she has a good butt. I can't deny.
I'm very glad you're the one who's bringing this up. I would never in my life be the one to say it first. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'll take the Gooner role for this.
D is the one like shouldering all the missiles and stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, get your arms
Go!
While we
Move on
get to,
without
like,
me!
Arms.
we get to be the ones who are more squeaky clean about our love for Jack-O.
braver than any
I-
U.S. Marine.
Look, I hate to fall for the bait that it is, but it's not bait, it's cool that when she does it. I like it. But, like, but her outro where... look, okay, I'm not gonna say more. It's good.
No, I mean, no, you're welcome to say more. You're the host. You can say whatever you want.
Who's gonna stop you?
They make that thing move up and down.
We just got monetization on YouTube. We're gonna jeopardize the
Oh
We
shit,
are
you're
kinda
right, you're gonna make me
jeopardizing
lose
the-
my 3 cents!
your 3 cents.
I mean, like, they did buff a lot of the characters in Strive, and I'm not talking about gameplay. I'm talking about like,
True.
it's not even just a Jack-O thing. I mean, like, Potemkin's huge now. He's a lot bigger than before, and like, men
You can
have
see what they
jiggle
did.
physics in their
you-
thighs and their chest, and the girls
It is
do
true.
too.
If you want to see the biggest difference of all time, just compare Exert Chip to Strive Chip. Man got huge in between.
Yeah, but then like we all know that's like SpongeBob anchor arms
Yeah.
because of how easily he deflates.
Yeah, he blew on his thumb to blow out his arms.
Like, I'm gonna be honest, like I can take a little bit of like a slight Gooner hit alongside D and just say when Jack-O was coming out roughly around like, you know, back in 2021, I was like, oh, you know, I'm so excited. Oh, someone ripped the models. That's so cool. And of course, the person did a comparison of her body from Xrd to Strive.
And it's like,
And like I think I screenshotted like 10 different angles
what was it?
to try and see the
I forget who it was, but it was one of the Faust players on Twitter, and I think he was like, guys, yeah, you don't need to know, but it's 20% bigger in Strive. I did the math.
I think that was the post. I'm pretty
Precisely
sure that was the one.
He said this was very important. We didn't change anything about the design, but
Yeah, literal butt.
You guys see the meme where it was a screenshot of Jack-O, and it's from the intro of Strive, and it's like heaven or hell, and it's just Jack-O
Yeah,
standing there with the heaven.
Yeah, I've seen it.
real I have COVID type
Real ones
situation.
will know what that did to legendary Kaiser, or whatever his name is, Kaiser something on YouTube,
Oh,
where he went from
no.
being a normal YouTuber that reposted things to just overnight complete asshole.
Rebranding, just big rebranding, yeah.
Big rebrand.
No, they rebranded. They rebranded to the Gooner stuff. And
Yeah.
you know, at first it started with Guilty Gear, and then now they're, you know, covering a lot of Tekken stuff. It's just, bro, I came here to see like the posts about dialogue and stuff,
Yeah.
and now I'm getting like a lot of ass in the face.
You know, George Bush was talking about, like, oh, you know, Guilty Gear, kill your friends guilt-free. What he should have been saying is that this will change you in ways that are not PG-13.
Anyway, getting away from Guilty Goon.
Wait,
Gooner
before
gear.
we move
This is an
on.
important part of
Oh,
Battle,
oh,
Jay.
oh.
Come on.
I will
Before we-
say, I even made a post about it. I have a very big bias towards beautiful angelic woman, and Jack-O is definitely one of the characters in Guilty Gear who stood out to me. Just, she's so the most attractive character in my mind,
Mhm.
in very sweet and wholesome ways, and not sinful.
Yes,
Totally.
in
Mhm.
beautiful,
Borch, I also
kind
wanted
ways.
to say, it blew up. I think you even said recently it's your most popular art piece, but your Cowboy Jack-O redesign was so
Oh, yeah.
sick. I don't think I can see her any other way now. I'm such a sucker for cowboys. It was so good.
I remember it was just like, it was this pose where she's holding the house and her halo sort of goes to the back. I was like, that's sort of like how I wear a cowboy hat on the back of my neck. And then I was just like, Cowboy Jack-O.
Mhm.
And then I just drew it in a day. I was very inspired. It's one of those drawings where like it goes by so fast just because you're feeling yourself, and it was just like it worked out very beautifully. I'm very proud of that drawing.
I'm trying to remember if I saw it. Here, I'm looking right now.
I can.
Oh, it was so
drop
sick too. I
into
really
the
like how you used the lime green too to accent things. Like I just thought the colors were sick. I thought the posing was sick. I remember seeing one quote retweet. It was like, if Guilty Gear had costume changes, this is exactly what I would want, and that's exactly how I feel too.
Yeah, that made me really happy. And someone actually, I don't know if it's still happening. They said that they commissioned a mod.
Oh, sorry, I just found it.
Don't worry, I'm
didn't mean
popping
to
it up on
interject.
screen now too.
Yeah, I love the halo transfer into like being like a big hat too. Also, just like the play of the white background bleeding into the character. I love shit like that. It's so cool. And yeah, like literally the way like she's handling Dopros. It's a perfect lasso.
So I think now we should
Yeah.
talk a little bit about gameplay for Exer, and then we should swap over to Strive for a bit. But I wanted to talk about my favorite thing of Jack-O's gameplay of all time, and it's that on her Dust Loop page for her 2D, it says, in fiery text, it's a one-button
It's
DP!
a one DP.
I feel like I'm playing Persona right now. This rocks.
Oh my god.
Dude,
Everyone
I
got
miss
DPs in that
Zest.
game.
Like replaying this game, I miss Zest so much.
I had no idea until I was reading her Dust Loop, but I think it's so sick that all of her Dust buttons are like working as command specials that use meter. Obviously, it sucks that she's extremely meter hungry, but I think like with the houses, she can probably like play around that and generate meter pretty okay. I imagine.
Her
Yeah.
houses are a meter battery, so just by standing around them, you gain a lot of meter. And she can gain it pretty fast if you're like in the right setup, you know?
That is so sick. I really like how much she forces you to play a completely different game. Like
Yeah,
she's
I
full
think it's
resource
awesome.
management.
You're playing the Jack-O game whenever she's on screen. There's some
I-
characters where like it's like when you're playing against Slayer, you're playing the Slayer game. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
When you're fighting against Jack-O, you're playing Jack-O's game. You're not
Oh.
just playing Guilty Gear.
Well, when I'm against Slayer, I don't think I'm playing the Slayer game. I think I'm playing the loose screen game. I'm playing Exploding game.
You're playing the Go Next game.
Thing.
Yeah.
That was something that we talked about a little bit before we hopped on for the podcast, with Jack-O like kind of weirdly being very strong and meta defining. And yeah, I think it's easy to see why when she's just fundamentally playing a different game compared to literally any other character. I know Exert is already an extremely goofy and different kind of fighting game with like every character virtually having some sort of weird distinctive gimmick, but Jack-O especially is like, what is this doing in a fighting game? So like, even if she's not particularly broken, I think just having to sit down in tournament and wrap your head around just what the hell someone's doing on the opposite side of the screen is just enough to win some games.
You can tell she's made by Asuka, because when Asuka gets in the game and you see his meters and his cards and his cubes and everything, you're like, oh, what the fuck is going on here? And that is exactly how I feel when I see Jack-O and all of her minions and the ghosts and organ commands, and it's like, oh god, what is happening here?
True Looney Tunes ass.
Definitely something really hard to balance because you either have like a terrible character or someone who just completely like redefines the meta, like Steve in Smash, for example.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining
think-
right now, like, Sol in the middle of, like, Jack-O's 10 million minions and then Asuka's 10 million cubes, and he's like, I don't have time for any of this projectile bullshit. I just keep punching. But he loves them, so. besides like the gameplay changes, I think they got a redesign change in Strive too. Like they have the masks now, like Jack-O. I think I kind of like that a little more than the Exert ones. Not that the Exert ones are bad. I like that they all have like little RPG rolls and swords and wands and sticks and stuff. But I kind of like how like her 3 little goober guys in Strive as well. But I just kind of like her 3 individual little guys and their little emotions, where she's got like the one angry guy.
Yeah.
She's doing her best to care for them now that they don't have housing.
Poor thing.
They don't have the
So
money to
sad.
afford D&D anymore. Here, have this
Jack-O
toy
being-
sword.
I do like the minion design better in Strive too. I think it's just so cute. They're so cute. I totally get a plushie of them.
Yeah, no, I want one so badly.
Oh my god, you're
Yeah,
right.
some
Why have
different
they not made like plushies and merch of the little minions? Are they stupid?
Oh. Are they stupid?
Well, there's. I imagine like this
Alexa,
very like low key bass boosted the town inside me looming over us being the reason why. Which that's I'm glad that she has merch.
She needs a little bit
But
less
it's
of a
like-
town inside her, is what all I'm saying.
Leave some of the town
It
for
just-
the rest of us.
The rest of us slowly gets louder.
Sorry, I just remembered the fact that Jack-O got 0 merch in Strive until, like, besides the Tower Record stuff, and she got 1 figure and it was of the Jack-O pose, which, to be fair, that should have came out a while ago, but, like, nothing else. And I'm remembering how I think
genuinely
Tifa
hurts me
got
that
a statue of the Jack-O pose before Jack-O did.
Oh my goodness.
Seriously?
It's
It generally
real, there's
hurts
a
me that she
Tifa
doesn't have
Lockhart,
like.
statue of that.
It's
I
so
really
crazy
wanted a
because-
Jack-O Nendo. I really want one.
Oh. It's,
Just the Jack-O Nendo would be super cute.
I consider her like
alas.
the mascot character for XR, so it's crazy to see like she doesn't have a whole lot. She has like a really beautiful figure, but it's super expensive and you can't find it anywhere. But
I got really
I
lucky.
have to
Legit.
agree,
That
there's
one
no way
briefly.
May and Bridget are that popular where you can't have like a single Jack-O. It's like, come on.
Poor girl.
SMH.
She'll get her time.
SMH my head.
It'll definitely come in dual rulers, I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
Pike, I wanted to ask, what is it that you like about Jack-O and Exerd playing-wise? Because I think you've gone on record and saying like you don't like Strive Jack-O as much as Exerd. I always see you grinding out Exerd stuff with Borch.
Oh, I was
She's
talking
the
about
opposite.
Elfelt.
Never mind, my bad.
I prefer Strive Jack-O over Exerd, but I do find Exerd Jack-O like a lot of fun. Usually someone's first impression of Exerd Jack-O would be that she's easy to play because of the low execution bar. She doesn't have a DP input or many quarter circle inputs, but I feel like she's very technical in how you have to play around her odd moveset and placing down minions to set your win condition.
Sorry, I'm just watching the madness right now. I love that when Doper spits you out like he's got lips and stuff. Like he's like.
Don't say it.
Taking
Don't-
out
no,
Hunger
no,
and
that's
GoPro
me.
in the
Damn it, it's stuck
background.
in my head now.
Can we make Jack-O even more unique by adding that as a command grab? Because hey, Leo got a command grab in Strive. Can Jack-O have one too? Can she get
She
like one of her
has.
moves back?
She had.
really-
He had like it's a strike now, which is even worse. It's like, can we give her another command grab to compensate?
swap
And it's
over to
one of her
Strive now,
old
or-
deck card moves.
I think it just really, I don't know, if you give her a command grab or a DP, I think that just make her overwhelming in Strive.
Oh, that color.
Yeah, I like this
Oh,
color.
I wanted to
This
ask,
all-
what do her organ commands do? Like, I know she has one where she has the projectile shield, like, or is that the only one she does? I just know she pulls the organ out, and I'm not sure what it does. Does it level up her houses, or?
So, the way that Jack-O works in XR is that her houses level up over time as they're outside, but they do have health bars that upgrade over time, and if you put the houses away, they, like, maintain their quote-unquote XP. So, like, they're still going to be level 2 and 1 for how I have them. And then her organ commands, you go into an organ stance where you're always counter hit. However, you can put the houses away, all of them. You can power up all your minions, you can make them explode, or you could set up Aegis Shield, which blocks all projectiles and also protects all houses inside of it.
How do you play around that? Like, I guess you just have to run her down completely then, right? But it seems like as soon as she has a house up and she has the shield up, what are you supposed to do to take down the house?
So the shield goes away if Jack-O's hit, and then it stays away for about 1 or 2 seconds, I believe, then it comes back until it runs out. And then
She has
everything's
the
on
Eddie
its
problem
timer.
then, where it's like, this character's fucking busted on paper! Oh, you hit Eddie? Okay, it's over.
Yeah, pretty much. If you hit her, her pressure does take a big hit. Like, she's a character that you have to be very careful about getting hit, because then you can lose a lot of momentum.
It's the same situation in Strive then, where it's like, you can have a busted setup with all your minions out, but the second you lock an attack, it's all gone. It's like, well,
it's
gotta
a
go
little
through
bit
the process
more
again.
forgiving because like you can just bring out the minions right away compared to an Exord where you have to like set up the houses first and you wait a bit and then the minions come out and you kind of have to like coddle them until like they're basically busted.
True, because the minions are, like, at level 1, if you have all 3 houses at level 1 and you have someone in the corner, you can do a lot, but it's not as, like, win conditioning, like, oppressive as them all being level 3. So you do have to wait for them, you have to stall a lot. And even when you're getting hit, if your houses are out, you're actually, like, gaining momentum. Like, if someone puts you in a super long combo, that's actually to your benefit if you do have houses getting leveled up in the back.
The Jack also has like a really low defense, so
True.
you
have to
can
be
only take
careful.
so much.
Yeah.
How is her health
But
on
that's
the chip to
she's
Potemkin
really
scale?
interesting neutral in my opinion.
How's her health on the chip to Potemkin scale of things?
It's pretty low, but
I
it's
think it is pretty
slightly
Her health is pretty low.
slightly better than Elfelt's.
Yeah. And as far as I know, in her current state, she's actually considered a low tier character, which is interesting because she has such like an oppressive win state. It's just more when you don't have it, it's hard because a lot of her ways to get in are tricks. Like if you're playing Jack-O, it feels like you're pulling like a big trick on the opponent because like you have to do like some pretty like playing dirty type of ways to open someone up. Because you do have
Such as
like
what?
floor
Like
grab.
setting up like a high-low where if you actually sat in training mode, it's not that difficult of a high-low?
Yeah, like she has one standing overhead, which is her 6K, which is super, super slow. But like the way that you can make it work is it's like it's to the point where you can't even combo off of it. If you hit it in neutral, you do have to have minions, or you have to RC or do something. You can't just like combo off of it.
It looks like a worse version of Abba's Hop and Strive.
Pretty much. And that's like, and she has a couple of sneaky lows. Her dust has a low profile and it has a pretty like deceptive animation. It looks like it's going to be a low, but she goes up.
Oh, so she
It's
has
like-
stroked the victory.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
It's like you have to play a little dirty. You have to like cover yourself up with your minions and sort of sneak in or get a sneaky command grab or a regular grab. You have to mix those
Nice.
up. It's sneaky. You gotta play dirty,
And a lot of
and
the
that's
time-
pretty interesting in my opinion. But I know a lot of people do not like it.
Yeah, a lot of the times you're going off of like a bunch of knowledge checks, and because not many people play Jack-O, you have that as kind of an advantage whenever you're in like a tournament setting.
True.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that aren't true, but people will respect it because they don't know. Which is also a pretty interesting thing to have with a character that's so like in a popular game. Like you do have those knowledge checks that you can, even if someone's a better player, you do have a decent chance of winning if they don't know the matchup. Which is
When I was recording for
something.
Gabriel, I was playing Exert Pot, and I ended up learning quite a bit because the commands were not too dissimilar to Strive, and
oh wow.
I know how Pot's kit works in Strive, not because I main him, but just because I just kind of know him. And I played against a Jack-O that very much knew what she was doing, and I was like, okay, what do I do if I cannot reach the houses? How do I stop Jack-O? And so I went on Twitter and I was like, hey, as Potemkin, what can I do against Jack-O if I can't get to the houses? What is my way for navigating neutral? And the number one answer I got in response to that question was, oh, you just hit the houses.
Well, and also her DP isn't grab and bull. She's I don't think she's ever grab and bull. So someone
wow.
like Potemkin-
You're saying that you
Oh,
can
goodness,
predict she's
right.
going to DP and then jump up and two-frame throw them? Are you kidding
Pretty
me?
much. Hey.
I'm pretty sure her Forever Elise Sound Driver is fully invincible.
Well,
But
no,
it's
you
locked
can-
behind the 360 input.
Yeah, it was a 360p,
She has a
which I'm like,
360
damn.
input.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
For some reason.
I think it's really cute.
Me.
It's really cute how for like the Halloween trick or treat character that a lot of her base gameplay revolves around you essentially tricking your opponent and trying to surprise them with goofy shit.
You're making me
And-
wish now that whenever she hit an
Prank.
opponent, she like took a little candy from them. Maybe that's stealing too much from like Android 18 though.
Hmm. And
I forgot that air teching is a thing in this game.
Oh yeah.
it also does feel very appropriate that a lot of her competitive viability rests on the fact that she's like the fighting game equivalent of a rogue deck where it's just like, oh, nobody's just gonna know the matchup. You could just do whatever.
Like it won't get you like the furthest, but you can win some games off some like players that are better than you, just if you know how to play the matchup and they don't, which is an interesting way of how that works.
Are there any other characters in this game where it feels like the same as Jack-O, where it's like very, very impressive, but as soon as you learn the matchup, they become very non-existent in the like a
Bedman,
competitive
right?
sense?
I think Bedman, a lot of the set play characters, so like Ramlethal, if you know
Answer
to attack her swords, she doesn't have as big of an advantage, but she's still pretty strong.
I think the same goes for Answer.
Yeah. If you know how to fight
I'm
against
noticing a
Lancer-
trend between the three low tiers of this game. Wait a
Yeah,
second.
Interesting.
But I
The
love
noticer.
Answer. He's like a secondary to me.
He's like a secondary. It's
Yeah.
like you're calling him your son.
Yeah.
He's like a son.
He's my pick if I don't want to wail on people with alcohol.
Sorry, I'm just imagining Jack-O picking up one of her little minions and taking it to Sol and being like, "This one looks like you, and he's our little son."
The angry looking one.
Yeah.
She's naming them all, and that one's Little Freddy.
Redlit.
Awesome.
Sorry, did
There-
you want it to be named
There's
Big Freddy?
a...
And he's just,
Just
sitting
to
there
go back
deeply
on
in love.
the... Just to go back on the gameplay, the house placement, the positioning, and throwing the houses and managing the houses, it doesn't look like you're doing a lot, but I feel like I'm doing so much when I'm playing Jack-O. I have to think so hard, especially if you want to combo off your minions and convert, because they're never consistent. You have to like make it work. You know, you can't really lab a lot of your minion combos.
I think that's another really cool.
I was gonna
bit.
say you micromanaged like your houses a lot during that like piece of gameplay, and it was
Mhm.
a lot of like keeping tabs because like the screen clutter definitely overwhelmed me over time since I didn't take care of the houses.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hold on, gamers. Let's switch over to Strive super quick.
Okay.
I think that's another really cool bit of thematic resonance, though, that you just mentioned there, Bork, is that, you know, it gives off the appearance that you're just doing wacky, random shit, when in actuality there's a, like, huge going on, and that's, like, especially evocative of Jack-O's Exord character, where, you know, she's half goofy, funny little Halloween facade, and then also half, like, really huge science jargon exposition dump, and both of these are equally important to who she is as a person.
Yeah. I never even put that together. I mean, I don't even know if they meant it that way, but if they did, that's extremely clever.
When it comes to Daisuke, I think he thinks too much on his characters. It feels like
No,
everything's
yeah.
intentional.
Mhm.
Have you seen
And,
what was it, like the Asuka Compendium? And it's like how many like things you can learn about Asuka just from the textures on some of like his cubes and the book and his stage, and
Yeah.
it's like things that have came all the way from Overture, and it's like theorems for I don't even know what. I think it's like Euler's theorem in full, and like he's just got so much little detail and for things that relatively don't matter. Like you already get the impression of what Asuka is, and I think it's just because Daisuke thinks that deeply about his characters.
Mhm.
It's actually funny mentioning the scientific stuff because if I remember correctly, in her dislikes, she actually dislikes scientific stuff, even if she knows a lot about it.
Yeah,
She's more into novel ideas, you know, interesting things, philosophical
Mhm.
things, more than she is about just. Well, I mean, it makes sense. She's probably had to hear Asuka talk her ear out for years, and That gets very tiring. It gets tiring listening to Asuka at some point.
I can't imagine how she feels as someone that was getting or being reborn for 100. I guess he didn't work on her for 100 years. I guess just sitting in that lab where no one else can reach her except for a masochist and like the bereft husk of a friend she knew. And you know what, she had so she's winning.
Yeah. But no, I think that it's really cool. It's something that you see a lot in a few of her win quotes with different characters, and there's a few of them that I did want to highlight, but we could come back to that. But just in regard to her apparent dislike of scientific ideas, like she's very much a stochastic person, right? She's really interested in learning and logic more than she is just like base facts, despite the kind of role that she plays in Exard's narrative just to kind of provide a lot of exposition. But I'm glad that we did get the Jack-O that we got in her arcade mode and then in Strive, where she gets to be a bit more of the person side while also maintaining that interest in science.
There's a line in Strive that she says that really encompasses both her Exard and Strive self, where it's like a century's worth of knowledge and only like a fraction or like a minor fraction of that in experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, novel ideas, new things, innovative things, learning about like how people think, that's more important to her than just the facts that was like kind of injected to her into her being.
It places her in kind of a unique position when you juxtapose her against Asuka and Sol, where, they're kind of the two extremes of this, where Asuka is, really kind of trapped in hypotheticals, and then Sol is just like out there doing shit all the time. Not to try to like place one as more correct than the other. But then there's Jack-O, where it's like she's kind of torn between the two worlds of like, the realm of ideas and then the realm of the living or the tangible. I guess kind of like a weird abstract sense.
Real quick, I just wanted to say, now that we're over in Strive, we are playing the EVO winning character right now by
Hell yeah!
Nitro.
Let's go,
Duo
Nitro.
mained her with Giovanna, running a true waifu team. But like, it was so cool watching that in the EVO stadium. Everyone was like screaming, hoping for him to win against Tatuma or Tatuma. And
were you there in person?
Yeah, Jay and I were sitting way at the back. We got lucky. We got Guilty Gear seats, but then we had to leave because we had to get lunch and go to the bathroom and stuff. And then as soon as we came back, they locked off the arena.
The great
because
line
too many
incident.
people came in due to a fire code hazard, I think, or something like that. So we ended up just watching the rest on the show floor itself. But it was in person. Guilty Gear is an experience like no other. Everyone was screaming their asses off. And I like sharing that like little memory with Jack-O. It made me super happy.
I mean, like, it was kind of the same for me when I was watching it with a bunch of friends. Like, me and my girlfriend were like going nuts over just seeing the comeback and seeing the reverse 3-0 and the to reset the bracket. It was an experience. It was so like exciting because like it wasn't just the fact that Jack-O was there. It was how he was piloting Jack-O and dealing with Sol, because Sol is still a very oppressive character in this game.
Yeah, Sol was exploiting the system mechanics to their absolute fullest. He exploding people left and right. His bandit revolver, like, confirms are stupid. Like, the fact he's able to neutral skip the way he was, and the fact that, like, he needed that emergency patch to come out, like, yesterday. And he still needs a little more nerfs, if you ask me, but...
Nitro was ready for every DP attempt during that entire
segment. Yeah, I was gonna say, he whiff punished so well. Like, I would have choked immediately.
And I don't think Nitro's ever made it to like a finals to that level before.
No, I think
awesome
it was Nitro's first EVO.
Nitro's first EVO, it was Jack's first EVO too, and they both performed super well, making it the top 8.
It was so cool seeing Jack, who's been this like net play demon on Happy Chaos, actually make it up onto the top 8 stage.
Yeah, I was gonna say he was a looming demon for the longest time. We just kept dominating online games, and then the fact that he just cryptically announced, "I'm going to EVO," and everyone was losing their minds.
Yeah, I remember he who shall not be named being like, "Guys, this is the guy that's gonna win EVO. Just watch out."
But yeah, no, it was especially like so cool to see an upset from like what was widely considered to be not a very great character against like
one of the, I guess, generally regarded as one of the best characters in the game.
I mean, it didn't help too that
I mean,
like this.
Jack-O's good. She's just very inconsistent.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The thing is too, this is Jack-O in a nerfed state. In the season 2, she was way better. She was like a not top 5, but definitely a top 8 contender. She was able to contest pretty well against some of the other top tiers. I think she had a pretty okay matchup into Nago. But the problem is Happy Chaos is such a bracket demon, and the fact that he can put the reticle on you at any time makes it so Jack-O's kinda unviable into Chaos as a whole, and that's impossible to play, like, in a competitive standpoint as a solo character. So I can see why now she's got this reputation as being a really cool, like, secondary character. I'm not sure what matchups, like, you specifically picked Jack-O into fully yet. Because I came from the perspective of being really into Adventure, and Adventure was just saying for the longest time, like, oh, Jack-O's just done. Like, they took away all the cool dash cancel stuff you could do with her from Season 2.
Yeah, that was a
Swapping
shame.
over to Angie now because he can use system mechanics better with Wild Assault and things like that. And, like,
Well,
Jack-O's not
thankfully,
the
Wild
best.
Assault's not too big anymore. I mean, it's still good, but then it's not as dominating as it was before.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, like, Jack-O having this position now as being the secondary of so many people, where it's like, oh, Adventure has Anji, Jack-O as like, his two picks. You got, the Nitro with Giovanna Jack-O. It makes me feel like she's the brain of the operation. Like, oh, you got the Brawn that's running, like, a stupid strike throw, and then you got Jack-O running the honest, venom-ass, like, minion manipulation.
Our honest, weird-ass gimmicks. Their deceitful strike throws.
So honest, I swear.
I'm really going to be
very
interested to
funny
see
image
how
of it.
Venom gets translated into Strive. He's a character I never thought was going to be added, because I thought Jack-O in this game kind of took a lot of what he was known for, which is manipulating orbs on screen. And I
Most
really
people-
liked... What?
Sorry, most people thought that with the Nago and Sin, but
Mm-hmm.
Sin's transition to Strive was that he became a completely different character.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe
I'm still a bit salty of how Sin got changed in Strive.
yeah.
He went from, like, this really cool, like, overpowered special to special cancel character with mid-range, into... that had to, like, balance his resources to maintain his overpowered state, into just another DP character, which I'm a little miffed about, but it is what it is.
With
Well,
this
season
being
4
my
is
only
coming
exposure to
soon.
playing.
So hopefully we'll see some.
Did we have more to say with regards to Jack-O's gameplay though?
I just think the creativity that's like put on display for Strive Jack-O is incredible, because I think she does fit the idea that she is a central character and that she can be played in many different ways.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, like with characters like Slayer and ABBA, who recently came out, Elfelt especially, there isn't as much character expression. They're all played in very similar ways. I'm sure the
Yeah.
pros can definitely differentiate them more, play like better neutral, or handle the character in a more expert way, but there is like that aspect of sameness that exists with those characters compared to what every single Jack-O like has to output and how they end up playing the game. Because I would like name 5 different pros for Jack-O, and they all play her fairly differently. And then there are the insane people who do bomb setups where it's not optimal, but it's super fun.
Mhm.
I totally
I
agree with that.
completely forgot she had Bomb and Strive. I never see it
Yeah.
ever.
It's more of a recent thing. I think it's one of her more recent buffs. But I agree with how much players can show expression with her moveset,
Mm-hmm.
on top of like the small intricate details within her moveset. There's this thing called minion canceling, where if you hit both the minion and the opponent with like a move like say 5H, you're going to gain like a significant frame advantage, because the hit stop on the minion is shorter. And through that, there's like a lot of ways Jack-O can be optimized, and it's kind of the reason why like there's no Jack-O player that plays similarly with each other, aside from like the whole like basic set play win condition.
The B&B, of course.
Yeah.
A part of me wonders if, like, Jack-O's bar in Strive is a little superfluous. Like, I feel like she constantly has minions out. It's never like it doesn't feel like minions are a resource she has to consider too much, because the bar recharges so quickly. But I really like how she manipulates the minions a lot. I had no idea about minion canceling either. That's so sick.
It's a lot more forgiving in Strive than it is in Exert, because you can just kind of like pull another minion out instantly. And a lot of the times, if you know how to work around the gauge, the resource itself is not a big deal.
I do think Jack-O is one of the most interesting characters in the way that they translated her old gameplay to her new gameplay. Because despite I love Jack-O a lot in Xrd, but most people really do not like her. Mostly because they're not playing her, they're playing against her, which is a whole different story. Playing against Jack-O definitely is, you have to play a very patient game, and you have to play by Jack-O's rules, which some players don't like to do, because they like when their characters making the other person play by their rules. But it's really interesting to see, they made her gameplay a lot more involved, and like she is way more active. She doesn't have to stall as much or be as careful, but they do still have that like central idea of like her weird set play, the ways that every player can play her differently. There's no like one optimal way to play her. That's the same for Xrd, because there are some players that focus on getting resets where they explode their minions, and that's how they make pressure. Because you can explode your minions, you can make yourself safe from it, and you can get your houses back, but that takes a lot of time. So when you manage it right, you can like do some really interesting things with that. But that's not how every Jack-O plays. And it's very interesting. I think Jack-O is probably one of the most successful adaptations of her old gameplay into a new gameplay that fits Strive more, where she's different, but she still has that same identity, you know?
Yeah.
I feel really glad, because if anything, Jack-O's player base has exploded from what it was in Exert. Like, Jack-O is still not the most played character in this game, but I think this was the platonic ideal of making things simpler for new players from Exert that the developers had been intending for so long, where it cuts a lot of the fat that that maybe made Jack-O a little unapproachable in Exert, and made it so you can get to the core gameplay loop of her, where it's managing minions, creating cool, unique, tricky setups, and setting up that blender combo in the corner that, like, maybe she was always trying to get to, but it was too difficult for people to achieve in Exert.
Yeah, and I think just from a flow stance, Strive matches tend to last a lot shorter than Xrds. And just a lot of FGs now are a bit more, like, faster paced in that way.
Yeah.
So like XR Jack-O would not, like, if they kept that idea of like stalling and leveling up and slowly building that up, I feel like she'd be so boring and so underpowered in this game.
Yeah.
She just wouldn't fit in at all. But yeah, that's
like
why it's so
HC
interesting,
Gunguard
you know?
loops into
Yeah.
like 99 seconds
Yeah.
as a character.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting how they adapted her. I think also there could be some story implications or ways that also interprets her personality. I don't know. I think there are definitely some characters who do not win as hard when being adapted into Strive, where they sort of lose that identity.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people aren't fans of Elfelt because of that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Jack-O
Elfelt
definitely
is just a
does not
Rekka
have
character
one.
now, and
Yeah.
which is crazy considering like her stances in Exert, her unblockables in Exert, like Cherry Bomb, or sorry,
Pineberry.
Pineberry. Thank you.
Yeah.
There's a lot, like, Elfel is different in a lot of ways, and I can feel Pike being, or just probably lowering his head and being
He's
like,
probably like, he's seething right now. Just sigh.
And I guess I can kind of understand, like, with Elfelt's like growing appeal, they want to like play it safe, but it's something that they didn't really approach with Jack-O. She more or less plays the same, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. And they
I wonder
really...
if there's another character like Jack-O that was interpreted into Strive with, like, as most similarly to their last iteration as possible.
Slayer.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Abba too.
Abba's, from what I know, Abba's a pretty, like, faithful recreation, or I guess adaptation from her old gameplay style to her new one. But I never played old ABBA, so I couldn't quite say.
Well, from my
It's like-
understanding, from what I've talked to with other people that mained ABBA in the old days, is that ABBA and XX had way more of a skew between non-Moroha and Moroha, or Jealous Rage,
I see.
where if you were not in Jealous Rage, she was very unplayable. She didn't have buttons she could use to skip across the screen or, like, activate things. Like, she had a blood pack so she could get a little bit of meter, but it would, like, it cost her own health. She was very much risk-reward skewed, which made her not the greatest character in the game, but if you optimized her, she is a menace. And now in Strive, they've lessened that curve a little bit, so now she can get into Jealous Rage a little more easy. So it makes her very difficult, and I guess a little more one-note, as Scruffy was saying earlier. I think it's still, we need to wait and see where she lands firmly, because I still am not sure if she's like, oh, she's a top 10 contender, or, oh, she's like, just kind of running her own shit.
Mhm.
Still a little
Yeah.
on the new side.
I guess, like, you could say it's pretty similar things from old Jack-O to new Jack-O. But I think that's just sort of necessary with a game like Strive. It has a very particular gameplay style that a lot of those older characters that maybe are a bit more risk reward or like slower paced can't. They just wouldn't keep up if that was the case, you know?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of other characters that drastically changed through the years, and all I can think of right now is like Testament and Missing Link being just. I think
So
Testament
much.
was a bottom one character because I think they forgot a comma or something, or a semicolon. And Testament had 0 traps or
Oh.
anything, and then as soon as
Testament,
plus
like,
R
could
hits,
not air tech. I think was the
Interesting.
and I think maybe Testament also could not charge, which was a really big thing.
Oh, I think a lot of characters are like that. Potemkin, Justice.
Missing Link was coded on hopes and dreams. Not enough hopes and dreams, but some. And then of course translating into plus R Testament, where it's a menace, complete menace. You cannot move with unblockable trap setups.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like
And then,
the blood tech is what it's called, right? Or something like that. I've seen some gameplay of Plus R Testament, and it looks crazy. It makes me want to play them, but I just know it'd be.
I'm curious where you learned your combos. By the way.
Yeah, you know.
Like, I don't know any combos, unfortunately.
It looks so inspiring because it looks so cool, but I know like it's like that's a whole different ocean to get into.
Yeah. It's a fun idea to make your opponent play Kaizo Guilty Gear.
Literally.
What did you say,
Not letting
Scruffy?
me spectate at all.
Wait, I need to hear, like, I can't hear Pike very well.
Oh,
Oh, no.
I just need to move a
Yeah.
bit closer. What did you say, Scruffy?
Oh, I was curious, like, where you learned your combos, because, like, unfortunately, like, I don't know her B&Bs as much as I should.
I made it up. I made it all up. It's all like,
You made it up.
It's not real, we made it
That's
up.
the beauty of Jack-O. Like, she's so freeform and much like how you can kind of manipulate the minions to go across the screen, do pressure and combos. It's just, I know, like, it's not optimal, but it feels like it works most of the time because of what the minions allow Jack-O to do.
I think even if it's not optimal, that's like what's fun about FGs, you know? There's not one right way to play. And a character
Yeah.
like Jack-O where you do have a lot of freedom to play differently. I think that's really cool. It's all about
It's-
expression, you know?
Yeah, it's something that I really like thinking about when it comes to gameplay styles for the characters. The fact that there isn't like the most single optimal way. Like maybe there is statistically, but I think especially for a character like Jack-O, just having that degree of expression where you could look at someone playing in bracket and be like, oh, I can recognize that. That's Adventure's Jack-O, or that's my friend's Jack-O. Where it's like maybe they're a little bit more heavy on zoning, or they're a little bit more heavy on grappling, and it's really cute. It's super cool.
My Jack-O
Yeah.
hits 2K and then hits 2K and then hits 2K.
What do you do after?
I know that feeling, man.
It's a really good button.
It's an amazing button.
Hmm.
I
The
think now is
animation looks so
a
like
good time to start
pushy.
transitioning into the meat of Jack-O, which is her story and who she is as
Yes.
a person and what she does. And
I might need to get out of game for this, because I cannot think straight.
You are all
Like the
good.
minute you
let
started
me in,
talking
I can
about
fight.
that, I can't like talk and play at the same time. Unfortunately, I'm not that like good yet.
Mhm. No, you're totally fine.
Don't worry, I can't either. and I
Yeah.
run a podcast.
Yeah.
But I really like Jack-O because I think she has like a pretty simple character arc to understand, which is she Aria or is she Jack-O, and can she be happy? But just because it's a simple arc does not mean it doesn't have like incredible depth, and doesn't mean it doesn't hit really good emotional highs that are both experienced through gameplay and through the story. I know I personally, every time they would cut and strive to her like talking with Aria, and they like cut all the music, and Aria is just sitting there like chastising Jack-O, like, why won't you be happy? Why won't you be happy? Why won't you just take my body? And Jack-O's like freezing up and like, well, why won't you come out and make everything better? You know, like, I really like the dynamic they play with and how good their voice direction is for, I don't know who the voice actress is for Jack-O, but she does such a good job balancing that really, like, sound awkwardness and also the maturity that she's trying to, like, present, and also, like, how her fear in this whole thing, and, like, also when she does Aria, like, being this, like, matronly, all-knowing figure. It's very cool.
Mhm. Yeah, I think to me she's another one of those characters that really speaks to the core themes of Guilty Gear. I know it's a conversation that we had very recently too, D, where we were talking about like, and it's something that comes up very frequently on the podcast, so I'm hoping that people aren't too annoyed hearing me constantly belabor one of the core themes of Guilty Gear being like the notion of a generative kind of selfishness, and the way that Jack-O is sort of maybe a little bit closer to Asuka in the sense that she is under the impression that she's like undeserving of happiness or of just life in general, that she's just this thing that's robbing someone else of the opportunity to be happy, that she doesn't belong here, that she's crowding out people that should be where she is. So in this way she's like super petrified about the notion of sort of falling short of her friends' expectations, and the idea that maybe she's deceiving them or just here for a little bit until the real Jack-O shows up, right? And even though it
feels
sounds
like someone that has like a really popular and famous sister, and that like she's like the younger sister that like feels like she doesn't have a place.
Mm-hmm. Or like, I don't know. I think even more fundamentally than that, it's something that maybe a lot of people can relate to, where, you know, that the notion of sort of imposter syndrome, where you've just kind of luckily stumbled into existing, and the people who care about you and like you, like, oh, they're doing that until they find out that I'm not good enough, or they're just playing along because they don't want to agitate. And then Jack-O's whole arc is kind of reconciling that fact that, like, no, it's very important and valuable that she continues to live and exist specifically as Jack-O, and that's the reason that other people have accepted her into their lives. Sol, you know, very famously has the quote of "Have I ever called you Aria?" Where it's trying to reinforce both to Jack-O and I think both to the people experiencing the story that like it matters so intensely that you live life as you, because there isn't another person that you took this opportunity from. You are the person out there that needs to provide yourself with your own happiness, and one of the biggest obstacles in the way of that is you believing whether or not that you deserve it. But you do deserve it just by virtue of being alive, that every person is their own world, their own unique firework that's worth celebrating both to themselves and others, and people care and love you for that. You know, they don't want Aria, they want Jack-O. She is the person that deserves to be alive the same as anyone else, and she's not just this thing.
It
But
says
yeah,
a
I have
lot
like
to
a
me,
whole
like someone like Asuka, whose entire like story in Guilty Gear has been trying to save the world and trying to save his two friends, Sol and Aria, or sorry, Frederick and Aria, and then come the ending of Strive, where Jack-O decides to fully give herself up and like subsume herself into Eno because she thinks that's what the world wants, and you can see like Asuka freaking out and be like, no, this is never what I wanted. I wanted you, Jack-O. I wanted you to be happy. And like, obviously Sol reaching in and saving her no matter what. Like, these are two people that are saying, no, we don't care about the world. I just want you, like this mirthfulness, this happiness. You as your own, like, beautiful self to be happy and be here. It makes me so happy
Asuka
that, like,
does
Asuka...
care
What?
about Sol quite a bit. Like, he cares about Sol, he cares about Jack-O, and he cares about, like, his friends a lot. But I also treated that moment as something of, like, this is a guy who has had like plans A through Z for like a very long time, and for the most part, it goes all according to plan. You know, as all things as they are and all the like. But there's also some aspect of Asuka, in my opinion, that is very naive and conceited, in that
Yeah.
like he feels like everything is just falling into place and this is just how it should be, and like everything that
You
he's
can see it
planning
right
is
at the
just gonna
start where
happen.
he's someone that says like, "Oh, I made the cured universal healthcare. I created this immortal drug that'll save everyone and heal everyone perfectly." And he's like, "Oh, I've got stipulations. One, I will never let the government use this for foul purposes, and I'm putting that in as a contract." And then what's the first thing that happens? Oh, the government takes over the facility and steals his magic drug because he decided to trust them. Like,
Yeah,
he's
and
overly trusting and naive to how the world works and is constantly trying to fix things.
yeah, and that also plays into when Jack-O like comes to the decision to do that for herself, and it shows him in that moment that like it's another way to break his pride, and the fact that he thought that everything would go according to plan, everything would just go the way he expected it to, because you know he laid out these plans for so long. But it can be someone as, you know, like Jack-O, who was close to him, that would go completely counter to all of that. He's gotten his plans broken so many different times, and this is another bit of a humility check when he ends up seeing Jack-O leave, or at least attempt to leave.
It makes me
But yeah,
wonder, like, I really wish there was a scene that we got which showed, like, Asuka waking up Jack-O for the first time, and she doesn't have Aria's personality, like, it is just Jack-O. Like, I want to see
Mhm.
what his immediate reaction is, if, like, he goes through, like, a moment of grief and then accepts this as what it is, or if he, like, that's maybe why he's so mournful and why he's, like, in that hood, because he can't, like, accept this is just another part of, like, his guilty conscience. Like, oh, he's the father to this new creation, and, like, it's not at all what he thought it was going to be originally. Kind of like what ended up with, like, Frederick and Sol. Like, Sol ending up this huge, horrible monster is probably not what he originally intended exactly, but...
He just wanted him to live, but then those geared cells, they be working.
And again, I think it's another thing that really does speak to the essence of Jack-O as a character, that, like, you know, it's very painful to live a life beholden to the expectations of other people, whether they be good or bad. You know, like, Asuka probably did briefly see in Jack-O, like, the potential to become Aria, and he didn't mean that in a way that would be, like, disparaging to her personhood, but obviously it's something that, like, really built up in her head over the course of the game. Okay, well, clearly the ultimate goal for me as in existence is to just make way for someone else. Like, I need to get out of here, and the best thing that I can do is just essentially, like, die, right? That I don't have the same freedom of choice that other people do. I think she even has a quote exactly to that effect, if I'm not mistaken.
She was
Yep.
put down on like a very linear path of what her purpose was gonna be.
Yeah.
And, you know, Asuka outlined that for her, and I think it was very interesting how at the end of Exard, she kind of just accepted it without any qualms, and I think
Mhm.
like she was more than content to do that. But there's like this lingering aspect of also survivor's guilt, because you mentioned that she also would prefer not to be there when she feels inadequate compared to Arya, and part of
Yeah.
that is also that survivor's guilt of like, why am I still here? And I enjoy that the aspect of learning about everyone's worlds is a prevalent thing that even before Strive,
Hmm.
because I think I
Yeah.
made a master post about this a while back where Chip mentioned to May that you can't decide if you want to leave people's lives when there are other people who care about you.
Yeah, I'm so
And
glad you're bringing this up.
I love that conversation between him and May. And he was basically saying like, if someone in higher power, like a president, ended up having someone that they cared about taken away, and you had to give up the entire world in order to save them, would you blame them if they chose that one person over the entire world? And I like that that's something that like that existed as early on as Exard to really highlight Sol's choice later on, because I remember some people having a little bit of beef, considering like an Exard Sol wanted to see the world, but then here he's willing to let the world go for the sake of Jack-O.
Yeah.
But I enjoy the choice that he made, because at his core he is a selfish guy, and while he does care about the world that he has envisioned is one where, well, Jack-O's now part of it, in the same way where he made the decision, well, I gotta save Elfeld because now she's part of my
Yes.
world. Kai's
think-
part of my world now, like this entire
Yeah.
family's part of my world, so even if I'm normally a big stiff about it, this is very important to me, and I will let this world burn because my ideal world is with the people I care about in it too.
Mm-hmm.
The fireworks can't happen if it's missing something intrinsic to him, and
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm reminded
Jack-O
of what
became the
Axel's
bit, like, the
decision
final
was,
spectacle
where
to him.
Axel does not choose to jump back to the original timeline to meet with Megumi, even though that's what his character was building towards this entire time, because it would
Yeah.
mean that like Sol is gone, everything that Sol cares about is gone, and like all the people that and experiences that he's had now would be worthless. And Guilty Gear to me reads as a story about cherishing your present and cherishing the things that you have now. You will feel guilt for the things you did in your past, but you can't let that rule you. You gotta accept the changed person that you are now. Like, Sol is Sol now. He's not, like, Frederick, even though he can still be reminded of that love he had in the past. The past doesn't just exist to torment you, it can exist also to remind you of the love that you had, and you can be the best version of yourself if you choose to make your current reality a happy one.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
the world play was something that like I highlighted in like a big physical essay thing for Strive when I first went through it, because okay, I'm not trauma dumping, I promise, but
No, it's
when
fine.
Strive came out, that was also the same time my dad passed away. So it was something that really hit about the importance of being able to understand what your world is and how it's the people who are around you, and even when they're gone, there are still people there who care about you, and it's important to still be there for them. And in a way where like Jack-O thinks that, oh, the world is I need to save the world in general, I don't have to worry too much about myself. She's forgetting that
Yes.
now she's touched other people, and
Mhm,
like
Yeah.
she can't
exactly.
vacate herself when that happens. And like I know I love Sol and Jack-O a lot, but this is something that transcends even the both of them, because other people also like got touched by Jack-O. And while I know most of us, at least I think we don't really care too much for Jam, she had an incredible moment with Jam learning about
Oh no,
this sort of
I
stuff.
definitely care a lot about Jam's arcade mode, because like Jam is Jack-O's best friend, and it was from just a chance encounter. And I think it's just such a beautiful little, like, this is what life is worth living for. Just like these random strange encounters you'll have with people that you think you share nothing in common with, but as long as you can eat, play, laugh, and work together, sleep, you share these human aspects of each other, whether you know it or not. And even if you think your circumstances are so far apart that no one else could possibly understand, if you can exist as a human being and still keep working and trying to find these aspects of other people and continuing with your life despite it all, you are human and you exist and you are here. And it's something that genuinely made me cry when I watched it. I didn't expect that from a character like Jam, who was just the Bruce Lee character. And it's absolutely the last possible character I would have imagined Jack-O interacting with as well. But it's so perfect. And the fact that she remembers it in Strive too, she goes up to Nago and she tries to do that same thing that Jam did for her for Nago by saying hey, this Kung Fu girl once told me that if you can just exist in this new world, if you can just be the person that you are here, despite everything that happened, you are not alone, truly.
Yeah, I
I think the thing that Nago references to is some sort of ancient.
The book of I forget what
Yeah,
it says.
yeah. But then I wouldn't doubt if Jam knew about it and was quoting something from it, just to have that all tie together in the philosophy of it's okay to be, and that is saving the world already.
Yeah,
It's okay
no,
to just exist.
I had a whole thing prepared with regards to that, and I really do think it's so amazing to me that Jam is the person that kind of does pull Jack-O out of that mentality of having to exist in service of the sort of abstract, generalized world rather than living her own life for herself, because she's this rogue element really that just kind of shows up and then does a lot of the sort of metaphysical legwork for Jack-O as a person. And I'm really glad that I think it was Pike and Bork and D that put me onto the arcade mode for this, because I was totally unfamiliar before, but you guys all rightly
I was
pointed out
unfamiliar
before
with
the
your
podcast.
game.
Yeah, that this was really, really good and super worth checking out. You got Jack-O lamenting her defined place in the world and sort of her lack of an existence, or like a clear meaning given to her that she just is meant to be nothing, or she's not allowed to have something to herself. And then Jam comes along and like really simply and sagely replies like, only kids need a reason to get back up after getting knocked down. And to me it harkens back to, and this is another thing that I feel like I'm always plumbing on the podcast, but Jean Paul Sartre with like the fundamental treatise of existentialism, right? That notion that existence precedes essence, where whether or not we're born into this world to serve some grand objective purpose is totally irrelevant. The quest for your life is to define that meaning or that purpose for yourself, and it starts by becoming that engine of life, by working to keep on living and pushing forward no matter what, because you know you will find that answer so long as you keep looking for it. Jam sort of says that to do that is tantamount to saving the world, like you were mentioning, Scruffy and D. And I really think that that's no exaggeration, right? Because each person is a world unto themselves, and that's kind of only limited by your own perception and your appreciation for life. And that every day that you can keep on living and finding something to make you smile, that is what saving the world is. Like, that's what that looks like. And it may be different for other people, right? Maybe some people are out there saving the world by pulling people out of burning buildings or performing surgery on somebody or something. But even something like just willing yourself to get out of bed every morning intent on making today better than yesterday can be saving the world. If you remind yourself that the most important thing in the world, that your world is you and just how you feel, the things that are important to you, not some kind of nebulous thing that should decide life for you, that you're the one living, you're the one who gets to decide.
Damn, that's so cool.
Thanks.
Beautiful.
I can already tell that you guys had a lot to say here. I may not have watched the other podcasts, but I can see that Jack-O is one of the big ones at the very least in regards to like characters like you guys wanted to cover, because like that was like one huge like belt. I felt like I was like going to church and listening to the.
If you believe it, Jay's just kind of like this as a person as well. I love you, Jay.
Thank you. I love you too. We're preaching about our Lord and Savior Jack-O. But yeah, no, I had a few other things too, actually, on her other character relationships. But I don't know if you guys had more to say specifically about her interactions with Jam, because I also had more to say about Sol and Eno too.
I mean, I just like the idea that Jack-O is able to interact with the world even beyond Sol. And I know like we are a bit starved of some of those interactions. Like,
We get hints
yeah,
of
it would be
things
nice
like
to see a little
that,
bit more with Ram and Elfelt, especially because of their significance to the backyard and how that would play to Jack-O too. And maybe we'll get more in the future. That's why I've been.
It's kind of BS we haven't
That's why
gotten
I've been
something with the
going
Valentines.
really
and, like,
hard on like the Strive questionnaires. So they're asking, "Oh, what do you want?" And everyone wants gameplay stuff, and I'm like, "Can we actually have more story things? Can we do some more unique like quotes and like interactions between characters?" Because when Asuka dropped, there was so many like quotes that he got with both Sol and Jack-O, and I'm like, I'm really digging this. Maybe we can get
I'll
a
never
little
get
more
over
too.
how salty I was when they dropped Jack-O and Strive, and her only interactions, she got one special intro with Sol, where she's flirting with him, using music references, and then just interactions with herself. And I know Strive had no budget, and I know COVID, and Jack-O was almost certainly affected by that. But damn, she can't interact with anyone else?
Yeah, no, it was
Actually,
kind
what
of
was
bad.
the music reference in their like thing? Because I don't think I was actually able to recognize it.
I know Sol says, like, oh, is every day Halloween? And
She's like, and
Jack-O
you're an injured
responds, like,
soldier.
I believe
I don't know what that
it's-
means.
I think it's a Halloween reference. It's lyrics from. I'm not positive. I remember seeing it back when she released them. I'm like, oh, it's so cute that they referenced this.
If you know it, put it in the comments.
Damn, Jay, your
Comment
engagement's
it down
meeting for
below.
me too. I get
Gotta.
sermons. I get. You're giving me a whole X% with that.
yeah. No, yeah, I don't seem to recall the musical reference either, unfortunately. I did have...
in terms of like other character interactions, I mean, I don't know, I wasn't able to hear if it was being covered while I was playing with Pike, but I love her like cute little friendship with Axel. That was a huge like surprise that came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I think it's really adorable.
And
that out
it's
of
just
nowhere,
little
he
moments
refers
like
to her as
that.
Jackie.
Yeah, like little moments like that really solidify her place in the world beyond just being Sol's GF. And while I do like appreciate the ship, it's very important to showcase that Jackie can touch others too, and that
Yeah.
her existence can go beyond what was intended. Because we know that Sol and Jack-O are not just Aria and Sol. It's not a rehash, and he even
Yeah.
stressed that. But Axel giving her a cute little nickname, Nago acknowledging her and Jack-O's wisdom despite being much younger than he is. Little moments like that really showcase that not only does Jack-O have a place in this world, but the observations that she's making can also touch others. And the ability to reach out to others is something that even when she thought she didn't have emotions, she's still very much capable of doing. And like, that was very much upfront. When she was saying like, oh, I don't have real emotions, it was very obvious that she was trying to hide the idea that like, I'm scared. I actually don't want to die.
Yes,
But
yeah.
I'm kind of just fulfilling what I was meant to do. And even with the wisdom that Jack-O gave me, when the minute Asuka came back and was like, okay, well, it's business as usual, it's like she had to turn her heart off a little bit and go, yeah, business as usual. Before,
Jack-O believes that she was created to play the role of a hero, like a hero that saves the world, kind of like in a very stereotypical like story kind of fashion. And in a normal story, perhaps this would be like a Pyrrhic sacrifice where she gives it her all, she saves the world, and her loved ones remember her fondly, and they move on with their lives. But this is Guilty Gear, and that is not the kind of story like she's made for. Guilty Gear is so obsessed with taking the ideas of story cliches and transforming them into something else. Like, Sol Badguy is not the sole bad guy of the story. He's not even a villain. He's just simply branded as such internally and by the US government as well. But
That
he's
makes him a
your,
hero.
like, very lost loner type of hero as well, in the same way that Ragna eventually ends up being as well. And Jack-O, as like the skills of Juno, is shown initially to be like, oh, she's the balance of this world. What she taking over Justice's consciousness means that she'll be able to control the world. She'll be fully whole with Aria. Like, Jack-O, her emotional state in like thematic sense is tied to what the world is. She is the hero, and I think like Strive is like her protagonist story in a sense. And in those respects, how does she do as a hero? She fails at it. She is the worst hero anyone has ever known. The world's worst heroine ever. She spends the most of the time being awkward, sitting, asking other people for guidance, and never making proper moves. She has her like quips with Sol, but when she faces like resistance, she like kind of backs off a little bit, or when she notices that he gets like kind of upset for like treating like their interactions as like, oh well, I'm just doing this until you get Aria back. What I'm doing with you right now doesn't matter. She's treating everything as kind of superficial because she doesn't see her own place in the world. She needs to be this hero that saves everyone, like that kind of thing. And I really like that she is this failure that like they equate being a hero to her losing her own consciousness and will in the world. Like, she doesn't feel like she belongs because she feels like she could never be what was once cherished in the past. This Aria that was so beloved that people, like, have fond memories for. She thinks she can never take that place and that she isn't worth taking that place. And I really like that she's, like, given her own happiness by deciding for herself, yes, I do want to be in love. I do want to live in this world with people that I like. What do I gain from deciding that the world, like, needs me? I can decide that I need, like, the world. I want to decide things for myself, my own wants, needs, and desires. And it's so empowering and nice. It's so sweet. Fuck the world. Be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just, I think it's very important to point out that with Jack-O, she didn't lose her agency when Sol saved her. I know it was very much the cute, like, oh, the hero saves the heroine sort of moment, but I see it more as he's had so little time in the world in general, and like it's juxtaposed with her immense knowledge and like of factual things that exist in this world, but with such little experience. it wasn't just Sol saving the girl. It was Sol giving her more time to be herself. Because if she
Yeah.
sacrificed herself now, she would have been literally just a blip in this universe. Like just a small little blip in the Guilty Gear timeline that has only existed for like a couple of months. You know?
Jack-O Valentine almost became like Valentine. Valentine had a similar moment where she had her consciousness and she like could have been her own person and disobeyed what her mother wants, what like the ultimate like goal of the universe is that they're telling her she is, and she decided, no, I am just angry. I am just going to destroy everything and hate everything and hurt everyone.
And that's why Jack-O had to be the opposite. She had to succeed that.
Yes.
And she didn't know that at the time, but when Sol saves her, that's exactly the moment where like she can't follow the same fate as the original Valentine. And she does realize in that moment that like I do deserve to live and I do deserve to experience new things. And I hate that I'm actually justifying perfection can't please me in a way, but then I'm talking about this and like, oh my god, I'm actually like legitimizing this song. But you know, apart from that, I'm just glad that like people don't see that as a typical the guy saves the girl situation, but rather Sol wants to give her more time to figure herself out, to give her things to do.
This is fully her own choice and decision.
Yeah, and like it's even illustrated in the supplementary content where Sol does a lot of the chores and the stuff around the house because he's letting Jack-O read books, explore. You know, when she went to explore and find Nago, that was an instance. He trusts her to do things, and he wants her to learn about this world. He wants her to experience things, and when he saved her, that was the specific pivotal thing that he was trying to preserve. Now that Aria was gone, he wants this girl to discover herself.
Yes,
And
I do the cooking. Yes, I do the cleaning.
And it's like that one battle line. She's like, what if we make Sol our slave for the day? I'm like, girl, he's already doing everything. I don't know what else you need him to do. But yeah, just.
I think you put that like so perfectly, and I'm very happy that you were also really intent on making it clear that they don't rob Jack-O of her agency in the story. That like even though like a lot of the characters in Guilty Gear, they're defined a bit by their relationships with a lot of the characters, that first and foremost it's about them as individuals and then kind of how they reach out and touch people and then are felt back in turn. And so that it's still ultimately up to her to make the decision to continue existing, not as some kind of like weird temporary Aria XB, but as herself, as Jack-O the individual, because she wants to, because she is convinced, because Sol has helped her and that everyone else has sort of reached out, that she was able to rationalize like, oh my god, no wait, there is like a life left for me. And I think that also kind of touches on the thing that I was thinking about, like her relationship with Ino, which I think is like really...
It's very pivotal too, like everything that she like goes through talking with Ino and Strive, and even before Strive, like even in XR2.
Yeah.
I think
a lot of people ignore the fact that Jack-O is the villain of Ino's story in quite a few ways, where
you fucking know up in next card, man.
Yeah.
In a lot of respects, Jack-O, when she is first born into the world and she's told, okay, you will become part of justice, you are the girlfriend of this man, and I don't really have a plan for you otherwise, from Asuka, her immediate reaction to that is running away and just trying to figure out herself and being like, I don't want to follow this path that fate has for me. And then you can see that same character arc follow through in Strive, where she's struggling with it now, even if like internally she feels like she is going along with it. But in that kind of rage, she decides, oh, you know what I'm gonna do? I want this woman, in similar circumstances to me, to feel the exact same as me. I want her to know...
I'm so glad you pointed that out, because like literally that's what it felt. It felt like she was being petty, that, look, if I'm being railroaded into what I have to do, like where I have to be this one particular character, not even myself, you're gonna have to deal with the same thing. I'm gonna tell you exactly what you are and how you were made.
Yeah.
It was very petty.
And then
when
she
did
just
that.
leaves after. She leaves her there in a breakdown. She does it to Axel too, but Axel's way more forgiving about this. Like he's more wrapped up in his own internal logic. But Ino is just, she learns that she has this. She's a person that has felt completely lost in the same way that Jack-O has felt completely lost and directionless. And so Jack-O decides to give her the cruel favor of telling her that she is literally no one. She is just a construct of the world. She's just the hope of everyone. She's the construct of everyone else's dreams and desires. She is no person of her own. She has no will. Mankind knew that they cannot change society, so instead of reflecting on themselves, they became the beast. And she lets Ino know that you are the beast.
Yeah, and I almost feel like more than just pettiness too, that it's almost born out of some desire to see like if Ino can withstand that, and then what that would mean for Jack-O, because my whole like little treatise that I had about the relationship between Jack-O and Ino is kind of like built on that conversation that Aria and Jack-O have in Strive, where she says like outright to Jack-O that she's projecting onto Ino constantly, that they're I think probably because they're united by their shared belief in their own inhumanity, and yet Ino is to Jack-O like this person who's carrying herself ostensibly with some degree of confidence and self-assuredness. In spite of that, she's pursuing the things that she feels like, because she seems to have some sort of capacity to want that Jack-O feels like she just can't have, right? We learn when Jack-O has those conversations with Jam that she believes that she's nothing, that there's nothing to her as an individual, that she's meant to inherit nothing, and that she should want nothing, and that her purpose is exclusively functional, and that she was only created because something went wrong for someone else who was more consequential to the world than she was. And then more fundamentally too, as a magical foci, like Ino is also a product of strong desires of all of humanity, in the same way that Jack-O is as a Valentine. She's born out of this desire to fill and complete Aria as a person, and then also to manipulate Sol to an extent, right? They both kind of feel burdened by the expectations placed onto them by others, intentionally or not, and positive or not. And because of that, their lives are beholden not to their own self-fulfillment, but ensuring that they meet those standards laid out to them. But kind of comes from a place of resentment with people, and the people putting those expectations onto her. And that gives voice to Jack-O's own fears and insecurity about being redundant and denied the possibility of personhood. So I think in part, she's being petty because she's frustrated that she's being made to be like a vessel for Aria. But I think, like I was saying before, also because she wants to see like, oh, can this strong-willed, tough Ino get through this? When she learns this, will she be able to survive? And will that kind of illuminate a path forward for me? It feels like kind of a fucked up experiment to do to someone that she is sort of idolizing, right?
It's so funny too that she has this hatred for science, and yet she's also got that same propensity from Asuka, like to just enact these things on other people, give them the gift, like the Adam and Eve like gift of knowledge, and then just see what happens.
Yeah,
literally,
yeah,
she
right?
did the exact same sins that Asuka did. When I think about it.
And then just like with Asuka and Sol too, like, and obviously with Ino, most of her issues with living in existence, like they're self-imposed, because she's the one that's denying herself that happiness, when she's pushing people away because she feels like she doesn't deserve that love, that she's taking it away from the person who deserves it more, that she's laboring under this weird assumption that love is a finite resource and that she can't ever possibly be her own person. And so I feel like Ino is in a way both like, maybe this is like a weird assertion, but like kind of Jack-O's id, where she's like lashing out against the world because of the place that it's put her in, and still really desperate to find a niche for herself in it, rather than just saying that she has it already, that she can be a person.
There's a lot of Asuka that is actually in Jack-O, and hey, Jack-O even like makes fun of Asuka at some point when she like when she came out originally in Exard. She's like, oh yeah, Asuka, he figures that he would not account for this, or he was a little he's a little too attentive to details. But I like the fact that there's a little bit of Asuka in Jack-O, in the sense that because of that, they're both enraptured by Ino in some way, and that they want to see how she lashes out to the world and how she accepts the things around her. You mentioned how when she learned about who she was and how she was this magical foci, Jack-O, pity or whatever feeling she might have had aside, did want to gauge how she would feel. And she did believe that Ino deserved to know because Asuka was taking too much time.
Yeah.
And in some ways, to me, that just displays that, like you mentioned, Ino is such a pivotal aspect to the narrative too. It kind of boggles my mind that she only came in XX when there's so much to her in the story.
I think as long as we're talking about parallels between them two, both Jack-O and Ino have a propensity for playing games. Like, obviously, Jack-O has her whole trick-or-treat and candy shtick that she does, and obviously she, like, plays tag and runs away from people, obviously because she is running away from responsibilities that she's afraid of. But Ino does the same thing when faced with, like, timelines that she can play around with. What does she do? She goes around to different timelines, threatens, kills people, like, flirtatiously, like, plays on people. Because she has zero care for the world, and she just wants to see how much she can change things. Because timelines have become like this game to her because she has no stake in the world. These are two women that feel like they have no stake in the world, despite being, like, eventually told that they are the world.
Yeah, and I think more fundamentally too, like, Ino's going around, like, messing with timelines, not just because of that, but also because it's like she thinks that in doing so, some kind of grand revelation will show itself to her, right? That she'll, like, the tangible reality will produce a means by which she can fulfill herself. It'll give her the role that she wants, when, you know, in actuality, it's something that she has to decide for herself. But she just feels like she doesn't have that capacity. Like, she has all the desire and then none of the means to recognize that.
Makes me realize, too, like, can you imagine being Raven in this situation? You are this immortal being, racked with guilt and just full of nothingness, watching Asuka create this new human woman who is exactly like this other woman that is around, and just seeing that they both hate each other and are both, like, messing with each other and just being, and, like, he chastises Jack-O for it later on as well, but it's just like, man, nothing
The
ever
split at the
changes,
end.
does
He was
it?
like, really? It's like, oh man, Jack-O has to take her place next to Sol. Asuka has to do his own thing, and I have to take my place. And even when worse comes to worse, Ino was going to, but she didn't, and she said that she's not my friend, and that hurt my feelings.
And I think, like, you can see the difference between Jack-O and Ino, too, with how Jack-O treats Raven later on, where Raven is giving this advice of, allow yourself to be human, allow yourself to feel hurt, and to be cared for by another person. I know that's difficult coming from me, but it's something that if you can do that will make you human. And Jack-O does end up taking this advice and allowing herself to be cared for. Like, she ends up taking advice from Axel, from Kai, from Sol later on. Meanwhile, Ino, when faced with the same thing, runs away from people and only seeks to just ruin everything because she, like, out of her own wrecked guilt, her own, like self-perceived, like, nothing, her own ennui, nothing matters, so I will make things matter by breaking it, kind of thing.
We
you
need
can
Raven
see that
back
there's,
on.
like, an innate hope in Jack-O for things to get better, meanwhile that hope has been firmly, just, like, crushed in, you know?
It's Vriska.
Everything comes back to Vriska.
I really hate having to hear this as an old homestucker. But I mean, like,
Oh, we never left. D and I are still here.
yeah.
Don't say that, but you're gonna make everyone click off!
No, I'm letting the real ones stay clicked
The
on.
last thing I want to say in regards to, you know, Jack-O parallels to is how they both have this attachment to an old love, where Ino is deeply attached to Will, and Jack-O is deeply attached to, or I guess Sol in current times, and they both believe they don't deserve these people because, like, the love they once had didn't exist. It only exists within their memories. Ino sees this and says, okay, you know what? It's fine. That love was never real. Because I don't remember it, because it happened in the past and it only makes me sad to think about, I will never seek something like that again because it's just not real. It's just the universe playing another cruel trick on me because human beings can never truly be close to one another again. Fully not acknowledging how Axel has an attachment to her now and what she's done for Axel. And Jack-O, in response to this, realizes, like, oh, no, I have this attachment to Sol as well. I feel like I don't deserve him because he's clearly just attached to this idealized version of me, Aria, which I don't think I can produce again. I'm a more damaged person. I'm a more hurt I'm a more hurt person. I'm different. And he won't accept me now that I'm at my worst. And, of course, getting fully proven wrong by, like, Sol in the conclusion of Strive, which also makes me cry. And I just really like that little parallel between them. And also, they both have their hats. Isn't that cool? Like, Jack-O is Aria's hat from the past. Like, she's a remnant of the love that Sol once had. Like, that's a symbol that, like, things that are frivolous are still worth living for and still worth having, because, like, it doesn't matter if they have a purpose, as long as they remind you of of something that makes you happy, it deserves to exist. Meanwhile, Ino's hat is this, like, mindless, writhing creature that's also her speakerphone, that is unthinking, and that she got told is also the equivalent of, and it just makes her want to lash out and scream and yell. I think the fact that Jack-O is more open to happiness than Ino is, like, representative of why she's in the protagonist role rather than Ino's, like, complete destruction. I like Ino and Jack-O a lot. I think they're very neat.
Yeah, no, I was gonna
so
say.
Cool?
It's like you and a small contingent of people that are the very base Jack-O Ino posters, and I really see the vision, the deeper and more that I look. Like, it's absolutely there.
And like, I want to believe that it's very intentional, just the parallel that they share with each other, you know, and that there's so much to them where, like I'll admit, there's a lot of chemistry that exists between them, but the problem is that, like, it's toxic in the sense that they can't get the fulfillment that they would need in order to justify their existences from each other when they both
they would never be happy together.
through.
This is purely, like, a toxic, they are, like, just a one-night stand kind of thing is in my head.
Oh my god. But, like, that's kind of the beauty of it, though, having characters that, you know, while they relate, there's so much to them that is damaged that it kind of takes the world for them to get their heads out of their asses, you know, no offense. And, you know, worlds in regards to the people who they forge bonds with. It's unfortunate that Ino hasn't, you know, she wasn't able to realize that in the end. It was a little too late.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is something that's going to get picked up later on because Ino is debatably alive. I'm not sure.
We don't know what the state is.
Yeah. I'm curious if this is something they're going to continue or if that was the conclusion. I am very satisfied if that was the conclusion because I think that closes them both out pretty well. I mean, obviously I want Jack-O to still be around, but Ino, I think we can close the book on. I think she dug her grave.
She's hanging out in the dream bubbles with Happy Chaos now.
Jake, you're gonna make more click off.
God damn it, man. We might as well give her the white irises too while we're
Yeah.
But to move into, I guess, the last section of the podcast, it shouldn't be too long. We gotta talk about music with Jack-O. I like that in Exert and Strive that she has the organs or accordion. I can't tell what it is. That. I really like that instrument. It's very cool.
I think it's a bagpipe.
Yeah, I think it's bagpipe or like a
Thank-
harmonica or something. Yeah.
It's a strange instrument.
A hurdy-gurdy.
I wouldn't say Juno is my favorite theme in Exert, but it's definitely ear-catching. Like, I couldn't mistake Juno in the world. Meanwhile, I really don't think I could tell you what Chip's theme in Exert is at all.
It feels like a shadow of
It's
its
like
ex
Suck a Sage,
theme.
right?
Yeah. But Juno just feels like very playful, energetic, really reflective of Jack-O's character.
I love Juno a lot.
And we gotta talk about the consistently worst rated song in all of Guilty Gear. Perfection can't please me.
Every single tier list, man. Every single one. Just being like, worst song ever, baby. 2021.
Some people
I
enjoy
like-
It
them,
sucks as someone that really likes
He just wants to
Jack-O
wear new
to
shoes.
feverishly
Starbucks
wait
now.
for her song to come out, and then it comes out, and it's just May's song again. Like, I don't
But
know,
even
I was really
goofier.
expecting something so much more to deal with, like, dual personalities and like.
It doesn't
I
even
was-
have to necessarily be lyrics too. It's like the way the song is tackled. I think that's why I really jive with Ram's song, for example, because it just does so many weird things that you would
Yes,
expect from
yeah.
prog rock. And that is also a song that's like commonly rated low, but in my opinion handles its themes both instrumentally and lyrically a lot better than Perfection Can't Please Me does, you know?
Yeah.
I keep wondering too, was there a translation error when writing Perfection Can't Please Me? I understand that it's meant to be like, oh, Aria is talking to Jack-O, and like Jack-O is talking to herself, so it's like two people talking at the same time, and that's why it doesn't line up. But a lot of the lines just don't feel like they
It's
make
stutter.
sense in English, like how the meaning ends. Like there's just a lot of different lines. It makes it difficult to keep track of, and maybe that's more representative of like Jack-O not fully forming the words in her head. She's just kind of like lost in thought as like saying this verbatim. But I don't know.
I'm definitely in the camp of people that are not the biggest fans of Perfection Can't Please Me. I'm not gonna lie. But to me, I think that there is like definitely thematic relevance in it, and I think it's supposed to be, or at least the way that it reads to me is it's like Jack-O finally appreciating her own life and kind of distancing herself from the abstract world that was torturing her, and her belief that the only thing that exists for her is her role to serve the world, and then sort of romanticizing all the mundanities of like her regular life with Frederick, right? Where it's like, oh, like wear new shoes, like have good snacks, like these are the things, like however small and frivolous, that can just be like your raison d'etre, right? Like if it just is something that makes you happy, that matters, that brings you fulfillment, that's all it takes. Like it doesn't need to be something insane and grand, because like, you know, we were saying before, like just by living you're saving the world. If I want to be really charitable, if I don't want to be really charitable, it's just a little goofy song.
No, I like the parts where it's like her referring to buying new shoes and like these mundane things that she looks forward to in her daily life. Like, oh, I
Yeah.
want to be your umbrella. It's very, very like cheesy, romantic things that she's like looking forward to, and that's really sweet. That's exactly when I picture Jack-O in my head. That's what she's looking forward to do. Like she's been given this whole new life, and she just wants to fully enjoy it, even the boring aspect of it, where it's just like, oh, I just want to go to the mall. I want to hang out with you. I want to sit in the rain with you. That's very sweet. I don't like that Aisha is like, piping hot, and like just going really high pitch in the chorus. Like I don't think that works.
I think
don't...
it's even sad because, like, I mentioned this, I think, in a comment to D, where so many other Guilty Gear Strive songs are very transformative in how they handle the chorus, how like the character feels like they're evolving. Like I think a good example is, you know, Bridget's, because the chorus in that one evolves, and like the song feels like it evolves over like the course of its runtime. And hell, even though the lyrics in the chorus just very slightly change, but unfortunately for the chorus for Jack-O, it just kind of stayed the same. And like there wasn't as much like interesting lyrical play at hand. So like while thematically I do think it achieves what it needs to for Jack-O's arc, it didn't exceed it though. It didn't exceed it in the same way that Drift or Mirror of the World or the Gravity handles its, you know, complex characters. I think that Perfection Can't Please Me is only one half of what we needed for Jack-O. When like this half is good. It feels like it's missing another half though.
Yeah.
I like, especially contrasting it to Eno's, where you fully get her processing that she's like lost everything, that she's trying to build something new and she's failed at it, and this is her requiem, like she's dying. Like, and you get that true progression of her realizing nothing in her life matters and everything she thought was real is fake. And you just get none of that with Jack-O. Like, I really don't get an idea of her past at all. All I get is the idea of her present and, like, her anxiety between her two selves and Aria with this. It's just... this song bores me, and I really wish it didn't.
Aisha's still the GOAT, though.
Aisha's incredible, but even Aisha doesn't like that song. I think it's incredibly telling that when Aisha goes to perform, she does Bridget's theme and she does May's theme. Maybe Milia's theme, but she never ever sings Jack-O's. And it makes
She
me
doesn't
so
like
sad.
it either? That's crazy. Oh my god.
I don't want her to forget Jack-O, but... Which is crazy too, because I think in the Japanese side of fandom, they really like Jack-O's theme. Like I've seen multiple covers from them over there for that. Maybe it's because they don't understand the words, but that sounds kind of rude of me to say.
Might just be that like different melodies resonate with different people.
I guess I don't want to be the guy. I like it. I like it.
How dare you like something on the Liking Jack-O podcast, grrr!
Borch sitting here like the crying chopper gif.
I'm just like watching her just kind of like fidget.
What is it that you like about it?
I mean, I definitely get what you guys are saying, and I agree. It definitely shows one half of Jack-O, but and like we're maybe missing that like more like questioning her other half and other side, and maybe the more in-depth part. But I do think, as far as like what the theme is, I liked it a lot, and just like.
I will say, despite the problems that I personally have with Jack-O's theme, I used to have this little tradition I would do with myself because I go bowling on Saturday mornings in a league. I would always play Jack-O's theme in the car on the way there because it always amps me up in the like correct way, and I would just be singing it in my car while in bumper-to-bumper traffic, like fighting hot, popping like popcorn. And it's something that really just gets me swaying and like bopping around.
It's
You know, aside from like the lyrics, I will say, like, I feel the instruments are not as loud as they should be in that song.
Yeah.
Or they feel a lot more
Like
subdued.
the trailer version.
Yeah, the trailer version is different. The guitar was louder, and it's not even just the fact that it was instrumental. It was louder. I remember
Really?
that.
I had
too.
no idea. I knew Milia's
that
theme
touch
had
was
something
seven,
like
I
that, but I had no idea for Jack-O's as well.
Bridget was also unfortunate because, like, if you guys remember in the trailer, the guitar actually had an ending. It didn't just trail off in like the actual release song.
I never noticed that. I will say the instrumentation for Perfection Can't Please Me isn't like, I don't dislike it, but I feel like it could have been more. Compared to
Yeah.
a lot of the other themes that Daisuke's done, where he does some very interesting, and even compared to Jack-O's old themes like Juno, I do think there could have been more. I like the piano a lot. I think piano in any song, great. I love piano. I do think there could have been something more going on there. I will
It's
say.
just, yeah, I agree because
It's a fun song, it's fun to sing, and I do think it does encapsulate that particular feeling of like just feeling pure joy and just wanting to enjoy like your life in the day-to-day, not just the good parts but the bad parts too. Or maybe even the melancholic parts or the quiet moments. I think that is a sweet thing for a song to be about.
Yeah.
I do think I agree with you guys.
Oh, actually, Borch. It's funny because, like, going off the point you're thinking, I immediately just thought of that one meme of, you know, the small songbird that's singing and then the crow like interjects with like a much louder thing. To me, that the small bird is Jack-O with like the piano, and for some reason the big bird to me is like how the piano is depicted in like the other themes coming after her with Bridget, Sin, and even ABBA. The piano goes so crazy in like other songs, and I'm like, why is the piano so chill in Jack-O's? Even the little piano solo she had, I would have liked to see it a little more.
If they had more of like the instrumentation they have in ABBA's theme, and especially in that like organy, ethereal, like really beautiful part, if they did more of that, I feel like maybe people would like Perfection Can't Please Me a little bit more. If they did a little bit more. But I like what it is. But I agree with you guys. But I like it.
I haven't heard your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I'm grateful that we were able to get you on to have someone who does enjoy it, because I think it's very valuable to have that kind of perspective, and I definitely don't think that it's bad. It's just not my favorite, so I like hearing why other people like it, because now I get to enjoy it vicariously too.
Yeah, I don't hate it either. It's just that, you know, I just at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean,
But yeah, Pike. We were on Pike.
Yeah, Mike, I gotta hear your thoughts on the song.
What do
And
you
Borch is
think?
sitting next to you, by the way, and so if you hate it, you're gonna die.
holding like a big anvil over his head.
No, yeah, I like the song too. Basically, Bork just had all of my thoughts on it. It's something we discuss a lot, especially when we like put it on in the car whenever we're like driving back and forth to places. It's definitely one of our favorite songs to like sing along to.
It's a fun song to sing. That's one thing.
It is.
There are some gear
That's really all I
songs
need.
that I don't particularly like in a, I guess, listening way, but singing them I like it a lot.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what is the song that you feel that way for?
I guess like Bridget's theme, I wouldn't really listen to it if I'm just like working or like like if I'm playing a game and it's on in the background, I probably wouldn't listen to it. But when I'm in the car, it's really fun to sing.
It's also just like kind of a you either love it or you're just like, you know, just listening.
I bop to it.
Yeah. I guess to you guys' point, if I feel like if Dizzy had a theme that was sort of like I felt the same way that I feel about Jack-O's theme, where it's like, oh, it could have been more. I think I'd probably be more like Scruffy, where I'd be like, it should have been so much more, because like that is a character that like very near and dear to me. I do love Jack-O a lot, but I guess it's not as personal. When I'm more.
Well,
got
I
one
can
month.
say when
We got
Dizzy
1 month.
drops, yeah,
Yeah, I
1
got
month.
1 month.
I
If
can
it's
almost
not like
guarantee
everyone.
Dizzy's theme is going to be some incredible 10-minute long. Like
I
the
hope
first
so.
2 minutes are going to be like a choir, and then the rest of it is going to end with like Naoki just sobbing or something.
Like Daisuke's fucking.
Daisuke himself is going to be waiting
Yeah,
with
all
bated
of
breath.
them are singing all four of them.
Let Daisuke sing too.
Yeah.
You know, I found out recently. You know the in Soul's theme, Find Your One Way. There's the part where it's like, "Go excited." Apparently,
Yeah.
that's Daisuke singing that.
Really?
Oh, really? That's awesome.
I guess he couldn't help himself. He still sees himself as Soul, even if he'll never admit it.
I think that's beautiful. I mean, I know. Oh, I guess yeah, it happened recently. Before when we hadn't had like a Guilty Gear concert so long, Daisuke, I could be wrong. He would play the guitar for Six Flags Heaven's Guns, and like I like when he sort of incorporates himself into the music. But
Yeah.
we got a concert recently at Arc World where he actually was on stage playing the guitar then too. I think that's great.
Mhm.
I want Daisuke to sing on Dizzy's theme. I want Molly Davis. I want the Stripe announcer guy
I
who does
need
the.
Molly Davis to come back for
Yes,
that one so
please.
bad.
I need everyone. I don't want to make this about Dizzy, but because I could
I
go.
mean, they
I
are
could go on.
connected, and also I have no rules. I like talking, so.
True.
Damn, that's what was missing in Perfection Can't Please Me. Just the announcer going config.
True.
Mankind.
It's a small thing, but I really like that in Exerd you can switch the system voice, and it can be. Jack-O has two of them, one for her little child voice and one for the adult voice. That's
Oh,
like a
that's so
cute
cute.
little touch. I like that they're treating them as like two separate things. Very neat.
That's really cute.
And they brought
And
that
with
treatment
that,
all the way over to arcade mode.
Do you guys have any final thoughts on Jack-O before I close this out?
I do actually. Sorry to like hold you, but I had a little bit more that I wanted to say about her relationship with Sol. Where I just wanted to interject really quick and say that I feel like we already talked a lot about her relationship with Sol, but I feel like in a way, Sol is kind of to Jack-O like a more positive reflection of Ino. Where he's this strong-willed person who, in spite of being deprived the life that he wanted, forged on regardless, and he kind of carved out a purpose for himself in the world against everything, right? And he found happiness, and he keeps looking for joy every day, and he actually like inspires the people around him to do that too. Sol Badguy is someone that is totally unburdened by expectations or society. That is the way in which he is the Sol Badguy. He's a fierce individual, and even though he's still struggling under the weight of his past, he's able to appreciate the life that he has lived and the present that he's created and the place that he now has in his own world, surrounded by the people that he calls family. So I think that's kind of why, at least in part, that Jack-O's story ends a little bit more positively when compared to Ino's, is just because the guiding sort of influence that is just like, oh yeah, it's like Sol Badguy.
Yeah,
Not to say that.
I'm saying if I found a cute old man that had huge tits and loved me, and he just listened to Queen all day and tinkered on his little doohickey, and that doohickey managed to blow up the entire world, I would be deeply in love and happy as well. You know? If I just saw him and just doing his own thing, unbothered, moisturized in his lane, I would be extremely happy. In fact, I am extremely happy right now, so...
Wow.
They're the same.
But, yeah, you guys have anything else to say?
I feel like I've gotten everything I wanted to say. I could yap about XR gameplay, but we're a little past that.
One last thing
And
I'll
I feel like
say
I'd be the only person knowing what I'm saying.
Last thing I'll say about Jackie is that I really like that she has the nickname Jackie. That's just cute.
I love calling her Jackie. It's like my favorite thing in the world.
Good old Jackie
Yeah,
B.
she feels like everybody's best friend.
Yeah.
Oh,
It reminds me of that one little comic that I did a while back with Secret Hand Jack-O. And Soul being left out. Here, wait, I'll pull it up really quickly before we have to stop.
Yeah, you should throw that up, and you should throw up Bork's awesome Jack-O art.
I'm also throwing up Pikes as well.
Yes.
Yeah, for the stream. Unfortunately, my thoughts are not organized to add any more because we went over. I think we've exhausted quite a bit.
Yeah,
If
no,
you
you're
believe
fine.
it, I think this is the
talking about
longest
her.
one
We
I've ever
covered a
recorded,
lot.
so...
Is it? Well, I mean, hey, well deserved.
Thank you for sitting through my ramblings, and I really enjoyed listening to you three as well, because I love Jackie, and I thought this was very fun.
I mean, you guys had a lot to say. I don't know how a lot of other past streams went, but for D and Jester specifically, when you went off about Jack-O, I could hear the passion in your guys' voices, and even for Pike and Borch too, whether it be gameplay and design and everything that went to her. So it's nice to be consumed by other people who like this character. And, I'm not just left in a void about her, There is a lot to talk about her, and she deserved this much, runtime.
It is true. She is the gear.
And with that, that is the end of Talk to Me About Jack-O. Thank you all for coming on. Please be sure to check out Pike, Borg, and Scruffy Turtles' Twitters as well, because they have some incredible art on there, and you should commission all three of them. Just saying. Although I think, Scruffy, you're completely booked up on commissions, aren't you? So
They're actually opening up this September.
Oh my gosh.
everyone get first in line for this, I swear.
Commission Jack-O now. Call to action.
I'll put a discount, honestly, for anything like that or Guilty Gear related. Sure.
Hey, actually, wait, no one listened to me in this video. I'm getting in line first. Hold on.
Fuck yeah.
But yeah, thank you for watching. I guess subscribe. Sorry, I can't say that. It sounds like a dirty YouTube word.
I guess subscribe, unsubscribe, dislike the video, leave negative comment.
No.
Report.
Oh no, you're gonna summon a million
Report
guy
the
like that.
But yeah, thank you for watching. Bye.
Yeah, bye. Thank you guys so much
Adios.
again.
Bye-bye.